Welcome to the Select Board meeting for August 18th, 2025. And we'll be first going into an executive session before we come back out to the open session. So, Mark?
Mr. Chair, I move we go into an executive session, number A, pursuant to Mass General Laws, Chapter 38, 21A3, to discuss strategy with respect to collective bargaining for all town unions and non-union personnel and/or contract negotiations with non-union personnel. And the chair has determined that open session would have a detrimental effect on the town's bargaining position. B, pursuant to General Laws, Chapter 38, 21A2, to conduct strategy sessions in preparation for negotiations with non-union personnel and to conduct contract negotiations with non-union personnel, previous interim acting town administrator. And C, pursuant to Mass General Laws, Chapter 38, 21A7, to comply with or act under the authority of any general or special law or federal grant and aid requirements, the open meeting law, Mass General Laws, Chapter 38, 22FG, to review, approve, and/or discuss the possible release of executive session meeting minutes dated August 4th, 2025.
Second.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded. All in favor? Anita?
Aye.
Mark?
Aye.
Jeff?
Aye.
And I'm an aye. We'll be back at the end of this and begin the open meeting. Open meeting for the Select Board on August 18th to order. We had previously gone into executive session to speak about a number of items. None of them have come to a conclusion, so there's nothing to report publicly. I ask you to join me in the Pledge of Allegiance.
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, before we get into staff announcements, I welcome our guests here from various financial parts of the town, and I'm glad to see that everybody's here. So, at that, do we have any staff comments or announcements? So that would be comments, and that would be announcements.
Good evening. Ashley Symington, Director of Youth and Family Services.
Julie Wittis, the Council on Aging Director.
So we're just here to kind of give a reminder as well as an announcement about the Preschool Family Support Program. So during the 2024-2025 school year, I had the opportunity to work collaboratively and collectively with Julie to kind of learn the ropes for that program. Heading into this program, we're shifting management of that over to the Youth and Family Services Department. It gives me an opportunity to start connecting with families when children are a lot younger. And also, we have a lot of public questions that end up getting directed to me because it just seems like it fits there. So looking forward to taking reins on that. So last year we served a total of 61 children with this fund, providing ultimately $3,950 to each child to support their tuition payments over the course of last year. Heading into this year, this is the announcement part. The application for this year's Preschool Family Support Fund is up and on the website as of this afternoon. So families are welcome to start applying. We provide funds on a first-come, first-served basis. No income requirements or anything like that. So just submit the application materials to me. They can either come through email. We ask that they be in a PDF format if families choose to do that. Or they can drop them off at Albro House or mail them as well. All of this information is on the website. You have a flyer in your packet with a QR code. If you scan the QR code, it gets you directly to the page on the website. If you're going to the website specifically, the easiest way to get there is to type preschool in the search bar, and the first returned result will say preschool voucher program, and the application is there for families to fill out. Okay. Yeah, that's it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Any other staff announcements? Eric, are you up for an announcement, or are you just stretching?
He didn't hear.
Okay. At this point in time, I'm either damned if I do and damned if I don't. When I put it there, everybody reads into stuff, but I'm trying to use the staff announcements for projects that are of a magnitude that you just get an update, like Sewer Project 3A, the Brooks Academy. So I'm just going to hand it over to administration so we can get a status report on those things.
Sure. As I mentioned last week, so the Brooks Academy Museum RFP closes on Wednesday, the 20th. So we'll have more to say after that, so that's on track now. As far as 3A goes, we actually are gonna have the first meeting in a year of the Chatham IMA Advisory Board. We'll introduce the Great Sand Lakes part of the project, 3A, in addition to looking at the updated sewer regulations that they are working on. The commissioners will see those tomorrow. And as the IMA states, once the commissioners, I'll say, bless the draft, it goes over back to Chatham for actual approval. But we've sent them the draft, so we'll talk about that tomorrow. So both myself and Jason Trepagna, we asked Dan Pelletier to go as well, and Megan will come too, just for some of the background that's necessary for that project. And you'll see later under the contracts, we're in the process of collecting all the information and documents to submit the SRF application for funding, and we'll talk about those certifications later in the agenda. So that's all for 3A at this point, although we did have a meeting today to talk about the easements and the potential for those. I think we started with 2, it looks like we're down to 1. We're just gonna do some additional research to make sure the information on one of the streets dating back to the 70s didn't have any kind of an expiration date on it, so we don't think it does. So that's moving along as well to make sure we have that lined up and ready to go.
And the last thing is, I'm not expecting it tonight, but we've been talking about the RFP for legal services, and I'd like to use tomorrow's agenda prep to go over, the service areas that I was talking about.
Okay, the draft is in your packet for
It's on your agenda
the
tonight.
latest
Yeah, it's-
draft, yeah. Need changes.
Yeah.
Okay.
Anyone questions for administration?
Might have one more staff. Don?
Good evening, everyone. Christine Flynn, Director of Planning and Community Development. I just had a quick update. The final draft local comprehensive plan has been uploaded to the town's website. The board has received the plan as well. So on August 5th, the local planning committee did host a community engagement session. We had over 20 members of the general public in attendance. Mark was there, as well as several members of the Harwich Planning Board. And so we are in a 60-day comment period. We have comments through September 30th. The plan has been sent to all boards and committees, as well as town hall staff. And we are welcoming any comments and final edits from members of the public, as well as town boards and committees and staff. And we are also doing community outreach with the town boards as well, particularly the regulatory boards. And if you'd like Joyce and I, Joyce, the chair of the local
McIntyre.
planning committee, thank you, to come and make a presentation, would be happy to do that at your earliest convenience, once you've had some time to evaluate the final draft plan.
And we all have it in hard copy. We've been doing weightlifting. I also want to put a pitch in that Finance Committee should probably, if they haven't already, they should be on the list to get that so that they can review it, because I'm sure that there are financial implications to the way this is, because it projects out over the next 10 years.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Happy to do that. Thank you very much for the time. Appreciate it.
Okay. Yeah, public comments now. Anyone for public comments? Matt, how you doing?
Thank you. Doing well, Mr. Chairman, members of the board, Mr. Scabian. I have two things I'd like to offer to you as public comment.
Sure.
The first is revisiting the tree warden, which is something that we spent a lot of time on at one point before town meeting. I think the board came away with the sense that we should be planting trees, not cutting them down. And I would welcome the board, having gathered the sense of the town at town meeting, to start thinking about hiring a tree warden. Presently, it's the highway superintendent, and he has as much as said here that the only tree he's interested in is a dead one that holds a power line along the road. Now, that's a paraphrase, but I think if you go back to his quote, it's pretty much on target. And so we need to replant trees that have been cut down. We need to think about a program that makes it nicer to drive down the road and keep it more of a country setting, not an urban setting. It's rapidly becoming an urban setting. So I encourage you to think about that and kindly consider a discussion in the future about it. The second one is the bogs on Main Street, slated to be converted, partially converted into the tech school satellite. Continues to be problematic for me because I don't really believe the public was adequately educated at town vote. There are certain hoops that I understand the town must go through, the school must go through, to essentially assure a no net loss of conservation property in the state of Massachusetts. How that manifests itself, apparently there are several ways, but nonetheless, they shouldn't be a surprise to everybody, and I think particularly a surprise to the superintendent, Mr. Sanborn. Maybe he knows more than I do. I suspect he does. But I would like to hear that all of the elements that would get him to a shovel in the ground are in fact adequately considered by your board. I won't go into any details this time, but in the future I can remind you of some things I've said in the past. So with that, I would like to leave this with you, if I may, for you all to look at, and then ask if you would pass it on to the Conservation Commission. It details a concern, present concern, which is that the leaseholder left, I would say, $30,000 or $40,000 worth of cleanup work on the property. And
Excuse me.
from my standpoint, he found it broom clean. He should leave it broom clean. I stood before you, your board, in 2001, trying to discourage you from a commercial lease to somebody who in effect took $630,000 of our money and used it for 20 years at $1,000 a month to run a business. Now, maybe I should have been as smart as he at the time and figured out how I could get $630 out of the town, but I wasn't. Anyway, there's an expense in front of somebody, and I would encourage you to put it where it belongs. I did take a picture of the fence that goes around the property that was keeping townspeople off the property, but I did take a lot of photos of other things, and that's what I'd like to leave to you.
Could you leave it with them? We're having an agenda session tomorrow morning.
So I welcome further conversation. Hopefully you'll bring Mr. Sanborn in for a status report, and I can put my 2 bits in as well. Thanks very much.
Thank you. Any other public comment?
Are you hearing things about the amplification for?
We can't hear you in the room, never mind out there in television land.
Because I came in a little late, I'm sorry. Are you hearing comments on the amplification at Ember?
When we get to that point in the agenda, we definitely will. The question was, and you weren't at a mic, so nobody heard it. The question was whether we're going to hear comments relative to the request for enhanced entertainment license, and the answer is yes, but later on in the agenda. Okay, so the consent agenda.
Mr. Chair, I move that we approve the Select Board meeting minutes from August 4th, 2025, and August 11th, 2025.
Second.
You want to go in further?
Keep going?
Yeah, unless anybody has an objection with any of the constituent parts of this later. Yeah, do the whole thing.
B, I move that we vote to sign the letter of appointment for Anthony Schiavi and Deputy Fire Chief Craig Thornton to the Barnstable County Regional Emergency Planning Committee.
That's where you're stopping.
Yeah, stop there. I'll second the A and B, please.
Okay, so further discussion on A and B?
No, I thought we just said we were doing the whole thing, but
Yeah, I did. I just realized that that would
All right.
encumber us in the, you'll hear about it in a second. Well, hearing no further discussion, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? It's unanimous. As to item C, vote to approve the committee appointments, we can go ahead with item 2, but there's something that had come up over the last couple of days where I recommend that we refer back the recommendation to the Community Preservation Committee, to the interview committees, to have them revisit the recommendation and give us either a confirmation or a different recommendation.
Mr. Chair, I move that we approve the following committee appointment as recommended by the interview committee. Russell Courtier to the Golf Committee as a full member, term to expire June 30, 2028.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded for the appointment of Russell Cordier. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? It's unanimous. Thank you. And as I said, you folks can take that up and give us your recommendation. This is something I was hoping for the longest time. There is no lane, as far as I'm concerned. We're all in this together. Where we're at the moment is a moment in August where we're going to try to map out what it looks like on warrant timeline in cooperation with the financial people in town, the Finance Committee and the Capital Outlay Committee, which is primarily why we're here. I would love to be able to get us all on a cooperative page together so that we all know what to expect. No later than, to me, is a drop-dead date. It's not a plan. So we'll figure out how we want to proceed so that Finance Committee particularly and the Capital Committee has the opportunity to weigh in before everything's locked in about when it's reasonable to get things and when it's reasonable for you to be able to report back your analysis of those things. So with that, if you could call your boards into order, we'll have a joint meeting.
Let me go first. I'm Martha Donovan. I'm the chair of the Capital Outlay Committee, and I would like to call the Capital Outlay Committee to order for August 18th at 6:22.
Okay.
And
Bob?
I'm Robert McCready, the chair of the Finance Committee, and I'd like to call the Finance Committee, we do have a quorum here, and Finance Committee meeting as of 6:22 also in order.
And I see we have Eric back there in the bullpen waiting till after we have this discussion. So I really appreciate you folks coming in, and especially since it's still the summer and we have the ability to do things.
Mr. Chair, if I may, sorry to interrupt. Would the chairs from the committee, for the minutes, just let us know who's present from your committee,
Yeah.
if you don't mind?
So for Capital Outlay, Rich Larios, Michelle Galucci, Scott Norum, and Paul Doan.
Thank you.
And for Finance Committee, Dana DaCosta, Scott Norum, Mark Ramirez, Michelle Galucci, Peter Hughes, Tina Games, and Dan Ford.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
And welcome, Tina. All right, so first things first, we have the timeline as a baseline. I'm very appreciative of Natasha putting that together. It's not only a timeline, but it ties into the charter provision, so we can have a legitimate discussion with something that we can read.
Can I ask one question?
Yes.
It looks like there's two different formats, and it's the same, is that correct?
It is, they call
Okay.
for the same thing. It's just I wanted to clarify this a little bit so that you'd understand what the roadmap looked like.
Okay.
I guess first off, is there anything that you would, I'd like to get deeper into what everybody's responsibilities are later, but is there anything that you're seeing you would rather see earlier? Yeah, Bob.
One comment that I think the presentation of the comprehensive budget that I think is identified at the first week in February, off the top, I'm not sure, as being no later than, and certainly if there's an opportunity to move it into January, that would be appreciated, I believe, by certainly Finance Committee.
I'll ask our members along the way if they want to make comments, but I will make one comment. We had always had the ability to have that out of the way so that we could have the department heads in if they wanted to make a plea to change anything. That's where I see us getting off the track pretty much every year. There's no point in having department heads in if it's all baked in a cake already, and you guys are going to get something that's a final document at the end, middle of March, end of March, and you're supposed to have a hearing on it and do a deep dive. I don't see how you can do your job that way. So I think January is probably a reasonable thought, but everything should be pulled back further along the way because there isn't really a point to have any discussion with department heads about them advocating for increases or and us to have the ability to say, okay, that's a valid discussion, but we have to find some money in the budget somewhere because then he's going, the town administrator is going to have to open up the budget and try to find it somewhere. That's not a 1 or 2 day project. So personally, I'm advocating to get the end of this thing pulled back a little bit more so that if we miss anything, it's not going to impact the fact that I think January is where the rubber should start meeting the road, to be honest with you.
And that's certainly what I'd hope for. I guess as a second component to that, it would perhaps also aid efficiency of the rest of the process if that presentation was done to a joint meeting at the time.
Okay. Thoughts up to this point? Anybody? Mark?
Mr. Chair, I just have one point, and I think it may fall with us more than, well, it probably falls with the Finance Committee. Last year during the school discussions, the Monomoy School Committee said they had heard direction from the Select Board in Chatham, I believe in January and February, and I think we should give them some direction on what we can live with in terms of a budget increase. Last year, I think it was later. So if we have a feel of where we think we'd like to be in terms of the Monomoy school budget, we should convey that to the school committee earlier this year.
Thank you for that. And I think that one of the ways we could start with that is that the budget message that we send, rather than just slapping it together, should actually have some definitive goals in it for us. And one of them should, because it's not entirely true that we've never given them any idea at all what we had the capacity for. But I think in an orderly way, if the budget message says we don't have the capacity for anything more than this, just in general, and then go and list that as one of the components of the message. Because to be honest with you, it's a top-line budget item. I'm not sure the public quite understands that the way we do, but if it's within town government, it's within our control. But these top-line budgets, like the tech schools and the regional school district, send you a bill, and you pay the bill, and what's left over is what you get to budget for the rest of the town. So the horse is already out of the barn at that point. And I think we need to tell them up front, what we're looking for and what the capacity is that we have to pay it. One other issue that Mr. DeCosta and I have been talking about for a number of years, but here we are, is that we need to at least begin a serious discussion about how we unwind the addiction to the revolving funds. The revolving funds were never considered to be an operating pool. They were to augment unanticipated occurrences, like 2 extra teams showed up in the rec department to play t-ball, but we don't have anybody that we can pay out of our budget to be able to be their coach. That's what that was supposed to be for. It was never supposed to be for, we're paying for an entire component of your operation offline, because I would argue after the first couple of years, you know what normal looks like. And you're really only using that for abnormal, for something that's getting added, unless there's a disagreement with the Finance Committee. But we've been talking about this forever. I think now is the year that we probably want to at least look at what that means. And we have to have that discussion in the corner office too, because that will necessarily mean that we're going to take funds from one place into the other to be able to operate, because I'm not looking to short anybody, but I am looking for everybody to be subject to the appropriations laws that the state has for direct funds. And we should be running it that way for the most part, at least so we can control things. I'm not sure what the rest of our members feel, but it's ballooned. It's over $1 million. Bob?
And I think that was, we had submitted something at the late last year, and actually some earlier, but I think that by the end of the last fiscal year, there had been identified to be a commitment by the board to do work on the revolving fund issue. That's what I recall anyway.
And Mr. Schiavi and I have had casual conversation about that already, so I followed through on that promise. We are going to try to do that. I just want to make sure that everybody hears it at the same time. That's what the plan is. Is there anything else on the Finance Committee side? Because we're going to have a discussion too about the capital side. Is there something I'm missing?
Well, you had asked specifically about dates. That was the one date that I wanted to at least mention, if there was a possibility to accelerate.
I wouldn't be bashful. If you would like to be able to take what we have here, that's why I wanted it in writing, use that as a template, as a jumping off point, and send me back something about, yeah, that's fine, but this would be more reasonable if it looked like this. Because I just point out to you, we haven't skipped meetings in the summertime. We're trying to do everything we possibly can to keep this thing, get it back to where it was 5, 6, 7 years ago, where we weren't surprising each other, never mind the town. When this has to go out, it's 45 days before the meeting. When you're calling it. So it's really, really, really late when you're talking about anything in March.
Well, I think in the committee's conversation, the clear, important item from essentially all the members, I would say, was the importance of using the proposed calendar and meeting it. That it's been difficult in the past to in fact be able to deliver on the dates that are identified, and that quickly backs up the entire process, as I think we all understand. And so that importance of delivering the I think what people would expect is whatever the product that goes with that particular date are. Holding those deadlines firm is by itself a huge item for us.
Well, that you were here in August is a demonstration of our commitment to actually have that discussion with you. So it's early enough to be able to pull this together as a plan so that we're not going to go off the track. And that's what I'm saying. I don't want this to be no later than, because if everything's no later than, you know and I know that no later than becomes later than. It would be really nice if we had a wish list about where we would like this to fall so that we could see if we could track it that way. And I think we do. There's a commitment on everybody's part that this is slid too much sideways at this point. And people make mistakes at that point. The other expectation I have, Eric, is that when we get a budget book in a state that has a line item budget, that we not have an entire book that looks like a quarter of an inch of paper, because it's almost impossible for us to ascertain what's reasonable and what's not reasonable. So I'm saying it up front, we need to be able to see what those line items are, because I got to point out to you, if we get to town meeting and there's something wrong and we want to be able to change it, you have to do that by identifying what line items you're taking something out of or adding something to. And the way we were presented over the last several years with the budget books, that was nearly impossible. You couldn't make an amendment that would be coherent. So my pitch is that we need, if we have a 9-inch binder, Eric, I'd love to be able to have 8.5 inches of documentation in it so that we have an idea of what it really looks like. We used to do that. Peter Hughes used to carry mine in for me. It was very heavy. But we really do need to get back to being serious about stuff so that we can figure out, in a line item situation, what's important and what's not important.
And I just want to mention that the committee really appreciates getting this document and having this meeting in August, that we're it's terrific to do so.
And I can't let that go without saying deeply thanks to Natasha and the administration office who put this thing together for us. It's coherent, it actually makes sense on one piece of paper, and she did it largely on her own for us, so I mean, I'm deeply grateful that she did that.
We are too.
Martha?
So I'm going to take the Pete Petarsky approach. I have a lot of things to say.
Not necessarily in order.
Not necessarily. In terms of timelines, we talked about this last week at our, or 2 weeks ago at our meeting with Megan. We had a visit to the Harwich Elementary School. We did a site visit. And in talking to Michael McMillan, I asked him if he could possibly provide the capital input for the Harwich Elementary School. I said somewhere mid-October. It may be early October. He said he's already working on it. So, you know, usually we get that in February after we've submitted you our plan in December. So if we can bring that forward, and they would like a letter with the form that we use to fill it out, you know, the individual requests. I would also suggest, just a suggestion, that for the whole school system, we get a capital plan and a budget earlier. It seems that we get it very late. We were criticized last year by Chatham that we were late. We weren't late. We did it in a timely fashion based on when we got it and the communication that went back and forth. And I feel, you know, we shouldn't be shot for being late because that's their process. And Michael said to me that they're already working on at least capital. So if there's any way to move that up, I would suggest we do. Have a conversation with them and see if we can move it up.
As our liaison is sitting here, that's going to have to be the message. We'd like to be able to get some at least preliminary budget numbers a lot earlier than we have been, so that we aren't in a position of saying it was your fault, you're late. Because I don't want to care. I don't care whose fault it is. I mean, all I care about is it's done in a reasonable way.
Yeah. I may have a different opinion about, you know, we get handed a line item and we pay for it. I think if we're paying 76% of it, we get a bigger say in it. That's how I feel I'll just say that as a taxpayer. I'd like to see us have a better say in the school budget, because I think it's one of the biggest financial risks we have in town, in addition to the sewer. I also wanted to ask, and we've discussed this, but there's never been sort of a decision about this, if the Select Board wants the Capital Outlay Committee to review the capital plan for the school system. We've never done it in the past. There's nothing that I can see in the charter that says we can't review it. It's just a matter of whether you want us to or not, and that would have to come from you through the administration to us, if you'd like us to do that.
I'm going to see your Pete Pekarsky and raise you a Pete Pekarsky. I've got some stuff I'm going to ask you, and that's going to be involved. That particular item is involved in one of the discussions.
Okay. I guess can I keep going?
I don't know, can you?
I can. My next thing is, you know, and I've been only the chair for the last 2 years, but it has been incredibly difficult for me through the TA to get a meeting after we submit the plan in December, and I would like to see that change. And Mark will know better than anyone, you know, last year he was dogging the harbor project, repair or replace, and it went to the taxpayers as a replace, and it's actually a repair. And we could have corrected that in our March meeting had we been given sort of the transparency that we needed to make that decision.
When do you want to do that?
When do I want to?
When do you want to have the preliminary information from the meeting with the TA? Is December too late?
No, I think the goal should be, after we submit it, if there are changes that we think would impact what we're sending to town meeting for a vote, I would contact the TA, which I did, and we should have a meeting to discuss it and bring it back forward and see if we need to change anything and bring it back through you. And that didn't happen last year. We had the meeting, but it took me 6 weeks to get the meeting. And in the meeting, I didn't get the information that the team didn't get the information that they should have, that would have caused us to make a change. And now what we have in the plan is a in the budget this year, is a $770 engineering project for a replacement. We only need to do a repair. I don't know how much that's gonna cost.
Well, $770 doesn't sound like much. So
$770,000. I used to be accused of talking billions too much.
I'm listening, though.
I've come down really, really low in my retirement. And we don't have, at least I don't see that we have money for the repair in the budget. We have money outward, looking at a big replacement project. And I think it is yet to be determined, can we use any of that 770,000 for the repair? I think we want to do it this year, and I think we screwed ourselves by not bringing forward the information that was available in January, that we could have made those changes to the plan.
Mark's made that impassioned plea to me.
Yeah, I mean, Mark's dogged it, and I appreciate that.
Oh, I don't consider it dogged. It's actually on top of it, so.
Yeah.
You don't want me to bark now, do you?
No, well, if you don't get this done, no.
Before you go too far, I really am reticent to guarantee almost anything in life, but with this town administrator and with the current administration in general, I am willing to guarantee you that you're not going to have to go running around to try to see if you can get a meeting for 6 weeks.
Yeah.
That isn't going to happen.
I appreciate that, because that has been the bane of my existence the last 2 years, trying to get
If I have to bring
the
it up
best
as an
information.
agenda item and an agenda prep, I will do it, so everybody is on the same page. It won't happen.
Okay. I do have a couple of comments on this document. So there's the fourth line down, it says the Capital Outlay Committee presents to the capital plan to the town administrator. It's actually the other way around. We don't prepare the capital plan, the town administrator does and submits it to us, and then we do the vetting, sort of.
Can I stop you right there? I know that's what you've been told, and I know that there's this tension between Chapter 4 and Chapter 7 and all that stuff. But the bottom line here is, I don't care where it emanates, there has to be a recognition that it still comes back to the board to accept it, to send it to town meeting. So if we don't find that acceptable, and I don't think we do here, so for you to be.
Sorry, say that to me, you lost me.
I don't think that it's acceptable for you to just take a capital plan, that's been given to you and say, okay. The whole point of it is for it to organically grow from recommendations to the town administrator to the board. It's inverted the other way around. If the town administrator gives you the capital plan so that you can give us the capital plan, then there's no need for you. You might as well just have the town administrator give us a capital plan, but that's not what the charter envisioned. I don't think that's what I envision or anybody else on this board envisioned, because it's supposed to organically grow based on facts that you guys delineate. You vote a plan, and it goes through the town administrator presents it to us. But again, it's kind of backwards thinking if you say that, okay, all we ever got to do is review somebody's work, because that misses the point that that's not the final stop. The town administrator doesn't have the authority to present that at town meeting by himself. It simply doesn't.
Right, I always thought that our role was to vet all of the items in the capital plan in a public hearing, or in a public arena, let me call it that, and to question, which we do, and which we have done. But at the end of the day, and that's why when I bring to you what we talked about or what we agreed to, I tell you what the vote was, and if there was dissension in the vote on a particular item. But we're not involved in the day-to-day operations of the department, so I think it's really hard for us to build a plan, like actually build the plan and listen. We bring in every department head and discuss what they need and how much they need and question what they need and ask them, should there be this change or that change? We do that, we vet it very vigorously. And then we bring back to you the things that we think are problematic or through the town administrator. So I'm not sure how we would change that, or what you're asking for a change.
I'm getting to that.
Okay. I might not agree with it, but go ahead.
Yeah, sure, Rick.
I have a little history.
Yeah, but
Can you go to the mic? Sorry.
if you have a little history, you know you can't talk without a mic.
Anybody got a mic? There, Mike.
I'm Rich Larios. I was chairman of the Capital Outlay Committee for 5 town administrators prior to yourself. And I guess in 16 years of doing it, we've always worked jointly with the town administrator. When we have, I'm talking past tense, okay? And we've had some difficulty in recent past. But for the 16 years that I know of, the town administrator is at every meeting that we have. Our charter, or the charter, says that we are to support the town administrator. We bring in, just as was told by Martha, we bring in department heads early. That's one of the things that I would recommend, is that we start August, September, to bring each one in after the town administrator has the blank forms and has passed them to the department heads. They don't come to you, they come to the COC, and with the town administrator there, we accept what they're asking for. The town administrator, in the past, has said, we have X amount of ways to divide the money, okay? And is it short-term, long-term, or whatever? And what degree do you want, or do you need the request? And on the form, it has the degrees, at high, low, or medium. That has gone on and on. So it's never been a vacuum between the town administrator and the COC chair. So it comes out very simply that the town administrator, we may say it's presented to the town administrator, but he's been with us at every meeting and has guided us on what is acceptable and not. And when we give it to that meeting that happens every year in December or whatever, that we present to the Finance Committee, to the Board of Selectmen and so forth, it has been vetted basically on how it's going to be paid, and is it acceptable, and do we have the money? My concern also is, what I've heard so far, is that we're really considering all the budget items that affect the school, that affect the town and so forth. We haven't really addressed the capital expenditures, and in the charter it says anything greater than $50,000. And that is really critical where we are today. It's that $50,000 mark. So all I'm saying is, Martha's done a great job. We've had some issues in the past 2 or 3 years on how it works, but that's internal mechanism. That's internal management. I think we have an opportunity now to go back to the past way it's been working. Go ahead.
Scott, thank you. Yeah, it's been that's kind of what I'm dancing about here. And let me get really brutal about this. My observation over the last few years is that this has ceased being a capital plan, and it's become, from the town administrator's perspective, us backing in based on a bucket of money we have in a given year. We got this much that we can allocate out, and that's what our plan is. That's a capital budget. The capital plan was supposed to, and I've said this before, and it is what it is. It's supposed to not only give the town an idea of the vista of 5 years, what it looks like. It's supposed to give the taxpayers an idea of what they're coming up against, year 2, year 3, year 4. If every year it gets ripped apart and it gets put back together based on, well, we only have $2.8 million in free cash this year, that's missing the point. Because it shouldn't be predicated on that. It should be an orderly process of what needs to happen first. And we can delineate later on how much money we have, but the order of sequence is supposed to be the order of priority. If we need a fire, if we need an ambulance and it's in year 2, it really needs to be in year 2, and it needs to stick there for the next year, or else there's something wrong. That's one problem. And I'm not debating you, because that's why I brought us all together, Rich.
No, and I'm
But
not.
I'm also suggesting to you that it's insane. What is the largest capital payment that or capital projects that we're putting out generically by category? What's the largest capital program we're borrowing against right now?
The sewer.
What's not in the plan?
Well, it wasn't last year, right. I mean,
No,
In
there's
the-
no
in the budget
explanation
last
needed.
year,
I'm
it
just
wasn't.
saying that that's not in the
that was part
plan.
of what I was arguing about last year.
And I'm agreeing with you.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm saying that's absurd. If that's the largest capital outlay we are making in a given year, you can't say, we're doing really great if I hadn't had that huge MasterCard bill that came in last week. That's ridiculous. So this all needs to be on the table. That's why it isn't just the town administrator. Yeah, and I get what you're saying, Rich, because I go back to 2000. So I know what used to happen. And as far as I'm concerned, somewhere along the line, we lost our way over the last 4 or 5 years. We got to get back to a real plan that's based on capital needs, that has everything that we need in capital expenditures. And at that point, you can make recommendations that this belongs as it's owned by free cash, or this needs to have its own article to go out. But you can't have that discussion unless you're honest about all of the things that have to happen.
Yeah, and just so you know, last year we started on October 24th, and that was our organizing meeting. We had 3 meetings to go through 12 departments, and then we submitted the plan. We didn't review funding until March, and it wasn't even a formal presentation to us.
And as I recall, you never had the privilege of voting on that. It just wound up being taken by the town administrator and handed to us.
Right.
Oh,
That-
we voted. We
No, you
voted.
didn't.
We
I guarantee
voted
you
each-
didn't.
We voted internally, we voted each capital budget item in the capital
There were
plan.
yeah, but the plan itself did not get the opportunity to get, I know Martha and I had this conversation last year. You were not allowed at the final juncture. There was no vote. For the final thing that came to us did not have a vote of the committee because the town administrator alleged that Chapter 4 was Chapter 4 and it's his capital plan and that's it. It changed. And it changed without your input.
Okay. I would just, again, I have a different thought process on what you just said of capital budgeting versus the capital plan.
I'm going back to what the charter said. You can make that argument to the charter committee, but right now what's there is what I just said is there. We pulled that back, and I remember having a conversation with Mr. DeCosta about that a few years ago. By language in the charter, we amended the charter to go back to the way that we had been doing it, and the only discussion we had was 5 or 7 years. Everything else, we wanted to revert back to the process that we had been using, and that included not counting it as a capital budget in year 1, and everything else didn't matter. The charter got changed, so you have to abide by the charter. It's not a debate.
And I'm just saying the difference academically, there is a difference between a capital plan and a capital budget. Okay? And whoever wrote the charter may not know the difference between that language and what we're requesting and what we've been working on is the capital plan. So, I mean, whatever.
Get what
you
you're
know.
saying, but two ex-selectmen were actually part of that plan, so, actually 3, and now I'm thinking about it. So, we
But we'll
know
just
how
move
it used to
forward.
work.
I mean, I'm,
It's not your plan, Rich. It's the public's plan. And the public didn't want it to go sideways. They wanted a prediction. They wanted something that were people who could take a dive into the budget and into the capital needs of the town and give them an idea of what they were facing over the next few years. They voted for it more than 2/3. It went to the ballot. It got approved. It is what it is now, not what it was 5 years ago. That's all I can tell you. You can
Okay, no,
litigate this, but it's all,
I don't know
it's
how
there
we-
now.
I don't know how that is remedied, and surely.
You'd have to change the charter.
Either change the charter or working closely with the town administrator that we can work around or work through.
I'm not looking to work around because you still have to go here at the end.
Oh, I understand that, but I'm talking about the internal working to get you the numbers
Okay?
in a real sense. And
But you've been listening to what we're trying to do, and I'm sticking with
I'm
what
giving
we're...
you the historical 16 years prior and 5 town administrators prior, and prior to the change in the charter that people lived with. So I think, if we come up with a hybrid or something, a change is needed and a change should be done quickly. And I rest my case.
There is no case to rest. The charter says what it says, and you would have to change the charter, so let's move on.
Okay.
Can I just ask a question?
Anita, sure.
I'm sorry. I believe that your original thought was the wording in that particular box.
Right.
You would like to see it changed somehow?
Well,
Because this is just a draft.
right, so
I-
the process that at least I've experienced, I'll say the process that I've experienced.
Okay.
The department heads put together their sheets of what they want every year, 1 to 5.
Okay.
They submit them to the town administrator, and they review them with the town administrator.
Right.
The town administrator makes the plan, I'm calling it the plan, it's the worksheet.
Right.
That comes to the capital outlay committee, and then we go through each line item with each department head.
I think what I was trying to get at is very simple. How did you want this wording
I
to be
think it
changed?
should-
And you can work with administration, I think, on this.
Okay.
But think about it. Maybe it would be more clear to yourself and maybe to all of us to just make sure that the wording, because I think that that's what you're having a problem with, is with the wording.
Yeah, because
Yeah.
the way I read it, it's saying that we
Right.
prepare the plan, which we
Right.
do not prepare the
So I
plan.
wanted to, sorry, make it through you,
Don't be
Mr. Chair,
sorry.
sorry. I just wanted to have your take on, because you are the chair of the Capital Outlay Committee, of how it has been, you'd like that wording to be more clear.
Yes.
For yourself and for administration.
Yes,
That make it easy?
yes.
And to that point, I give you the same offer that I gave to Mr. McCready. Put together a draft of what you think it should look like and get it back to us, and we'll see if we can coordinate both the Finance Committee and Capital
Do you want that to go through Tony and
Yeah.
Megan? Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
And we need to go through it, and Tony will have the opportunity to go through it too, if there's a change in language, to see how he would view that. But this has to be a whole heck of a lot more collaborative.
Right.
I mean, because it just seemed to start getting hierarchical.
Yeah, because the goal at the end of the day is to get to the taxpayer what we think we're going to spend over the next 5 years.
Exactly.
That's the whole goal. Right. That's the premise I've been working on.
Dana?
Just so it doesn't get lost, I think there's one other number we need to consider to give the full picture, and that is what we've already committed to that isn't
Not yet on the tax
taxpayers'
rolls.
plate yet. That number didn't used to exist before, but now it's a significant number.
That's the debt schedule
And
that
I
we've been
think
asking for.
I think that when we,
Pete's been all over that.
yeah, when we
Convoluted
put out a full capital plan with all the missing numbers in there, that we should also tell them, and by the way, we're starting at negative whatever, that you don't even, you voted on, you've approved, but hasn't been spent yet, so you're not being taxed on it yet. So,
Now Eric understands why I've been asking these questions for 6 weeks. Go ahead.
Thank you. I'd like to tie some of this back to the budget instructions, because one of the things that I've been harping about is the lack of a 5-year forecast, which is driven in part by the capital plan.
I think Pete's got that on the list too.
But how do we put together budget guidance for the upcoming year without knowing about the implications of our debt obligations and our additional capital plans? One might imagine a scenario in which we would back off of our budget generosity, knowing that there was a lot of debt service about to come on to the operating budget. So it's just another reason why we need a 5-year operating plan. And it could influence the budget instructions we send to our departments and our schools.
We'll see what we can do about that. The biggest move that I made so far is you'll notice that there's not just one committee, there's 2 committees sitting here. And Martha and I had this conversation last year. It's like, it's insane to go having a conversation about the budget when you've got all this money out there that you need to do other stuff, and nobody's talking about it. They interrelate with each other. And when people open up their tax bills this January, they will see a rather hefty price increase, and it won't be based on us going nuts with our budget. It'll be based entirely on those projects that we previously approved that have now miraculously showed up on the tax base. And everybody's going to say, what happened? So these conversations can't happen in a vacuum. They have to happen together, which also means the town administrator has to be part of this. You can't just say, I need a 5-year plan, can you have me one next week?
Well, I think the thing we all need to understand is that as we increase that debt servicing increases. And so there's, so many cents on the dollar of our budget every year that has to go to the debt servicing, so that's going to leave us less. And when you add the school in there, it starts to really sort of creep up.
You're making an eloquent point that we have yet to be able to make with our neighbors. Thank you. Tony, do you want to say something?
No, I think just in general for both the Finance Committee and the Capital Committee, I mean, my experience is we all work together, right? We're all working towards the same result. So as it relates to the putting together the capital plan, and it needs to be a plan, it needs to look out in front. I would argue that in some cases, 5 years isn't long enough, considering the fact that when you get out further than that, things are a little fuzzy, but you got to start thinking about the big ticket items that are coming, could be building replacements or whatever. And the same holds true related to the 3 and 5 year financial forecast. I can't do my job without having that. And so we need to develop that because we need to be forward thinking and looking ahead to those costs. So as we move forward with this process, you certainly have my commitment that when I look at the capital, we develop in coordination with each other at the same time. Now, at the end of the day, it may be me that transmits it or you transmit it to the select board, then it becomes theirs. Once they voted, it's theirs. And I have an obligation, if there's a change to that people need to know, right? So that we can get the board to vote that change in cooperation with, the input from the capital committee. So same thing goes true with the budget. Once the budget's transmitted to the selectmen, it's their budget. And if there needs to be changes, it happens there. It may come through me, but at the end of the day, the board needs to look at that before it gets, forwarded to town meeting. Because ultimately, we're preparing for that night or those 2 nights for the residents to, look at all the work we did. It needs to be professionally done, and it needs to be able to be complete enough where they can understand it. So we'll have more to say about that, I think, as we go on in the process. But these type of things are exactly how I work, and I have my own templates that I've used, and there may be some additional things we can actually put into this timeline, again, to help make sure we know all the milestones that need to be accomplished to whatever date the board picks to say, we want the budget by this date, and for me, it's in January. And same thing with the capital plan, and when does that get delivered to the board?
Usually early December. Yeah.
Pete, I know you've got a list, and you've checked it twice.
Most of it's been covered, and let's face it, there's a lot that's been said this evening, right? And the objective is, how do we move forward? How do we move forward? How do we accomplish what we need to accomplish in a coherent way that gets everybody involved, and it's through communication. Failure, regardless of industry or personal, failure occurs through communication. So if we increase communication, going in both directions, then we stand to succeed. A couple points, when we talk about the budget message to the school department, I couldn't agree more. They should receive our budget message. I do believe that the school administration has received our budget message in the past. I'm not sure that it's gone to the school board. So although the request last year is deemed by this board to the school board, was deemed to be somewhat late in the game, we could argue that all day long. What I'm committed to this year and what we've already talked about tonight is making sure our budget message gets to the school department. I think one thing that the past town administrator said was spot on, which is that the school department budget, which 76, I think it's closer to 77% is on the Harwich taxpayers, is seldom built under that model. It's built using the Chatham model, which is, this is what we need, this is what we want, and this is the budget we put forward, as opposed to, this is what we can afford, and this is what we have to live with. And so there are many requests that come before this board in which we tend to hold off on or pump the brakes because it doesn't fit in with our budget. So if the budget message is delivered to the school board in a timely manner, then they will in fact know where we stand as a board and the direction that the town administrator is going to work within to create our budget. School capital budget, I totally agree with us having eyes on it. Now, it doesn't mean we have a vote other than the elementary school, but nonetheless, the budget itself, we should at least put eyes on and be able to use in our forecasting. So to the forecasting piece, right? We do need a 5-year forecast, 3, 5, 7, I don't care what the number is. We need some type of forecast. We need a debt schedule. We need all those things. The elephant in the room, the elephant in the room is, we need a friggin' finance director. That's what we need. With all due respect to Mr. Kinshirf and his team, we need a freaking finance director, and it's incumbent on this board to get its ass in gear and get us a finance director. And I'm not saying we've been sitting back on our heels, but we certainly didn't attack it the way it needed to be attacked, and I'm hoping that in the next few weeks, we attack it in the manner in which we need to, so that we gain some traction on this, and we can successfully hire a finance director to take over that responsibility in the town. A lot of these things right now are falling on a consultant and/or the town administrator's office, with a boatload of other things that are falling on them. So we need the individual in place, we need to make it a priority, and again, what we need through everybody, including the town administrator and all these boards and committees, is communication. So I appreciate you letting me have my 2 minutes of rant. That's it for now, until I come up with something else when somebody else stirs the pot. Thank you.
Your wife know you were doing this after you talked about the signs a couple of weeks ago?
Didn't prep her on this one.
I have
Yeah, I have to go back through our own board, but the only thing I can say to you is that's our commitment, is you got homework assignment, and we actually want to change the process. Mark?
I just want to compliment you, Martha, for your thoroughness and
Thank you.
organizational skills with this committee. I just had one question. I've seen a semblance of a capital budget for the Harwich Elementary School from Monomoy schools, furnaces and things like that. Are you going to incorporate their capital budget in this town's capital budget? Or are you just going to have input on that? And just let me finish. Who oversees the elementary school construction? Is it their facilities department or our facilities department?
So we do include the elementary school in our capital budget, because we pay 100% of that. It's overseen by the district, and it is their facilities people who are responsible for that. And, you know, Michael, when we went over there for the site visit, Michael took us through the capital budget, and he's got a lot of moving pieces, and he's trying to make old equipment work until it doesn't, you know, just to save some money, and he's trying to slot things in when he can, you know, to make sure that everything doesn't happen at once. I mean, I think that's just generally how most people would do it. But he's got some projects that he's got to take into account, and the furnaces, he's got 3 old furnaces over there. So if one goes down, it's uncertain whether the other 2 can step up and really heat the buildings properly. So he's pushing his limits over there with those, I think.
Thank you.
Jeff?
I think everything's been covered, and this is a great conversation. So I thank you, both committees, for being here and starting the process early with us, and I look forward to the budget cycle.
I got one summation for you both. You're all here, and we're starting the process this way. If you want to come back and there's a bump in the road somehow, either one committee or both, we're fine with that. We'll get you on the agenda so you can do it. I will say, however, as Mr. Schiavi has pointed out, everything from both sides of this discussion winds up coming here, and it's our responsibility to say yes or no, and we may disagree on some things. But the earlier that we get stuff and the more time we have to converse about those things, the less likely it is that we're going to have some catastrophic disagreements. So that's my promise, is that you guys, if you'll get the information, but I need the feeder from both of you about what you want to see, you know, in the weeds on that form. And we'll come up with a budget message, and hopefully it'll be, you know, what everybody on this board wants, and we'll disseminate it the way it should be, with the school committee and you folks here. I don't want to mislead everybody that we're all going to walk off and everybody's always going to agree on everything, but I will say that we're always going to be able to talk. And we're always going to be able to work this out so that it's for the public, and we can't forget that that's why we're all serving there. So that's my pitch.
I would just note that we did put in your package, based on our last meeting, a list of topics that we want to discuss and a number of site visits that we would like to do over the next year. So just share that information.
You want to start talking about that tonight, or you want to do that?
No, I just.
You want to do that, and we can get you back into a meeting so you can go
That was
through
just
it.
information for you all. It's in your packet.
But it's just information if we don't do
I
anything
don't
with
believe
it.
it is. No, I don't think,
What?
I don't believe that's in our packet.
I don't think so.
Did it not get in the package?
When did you send it?
The package I got has it at the end.
Oh, in correspondence?
Yeah, it was just the future topics and potential site visits. It's just a one-pager.
Okay. We meet every Tuesday to develop an agenda, so we will talk about that tomorrow. Thank you for pointing that out. Because it's an action item.
Okay.
If you guys want to adjourn your meetings, you can do that unless you want to say more.
Okay.
Yeah, Rich.
Just real.
You do, because nobody in TV land can hear you. These things play back in perpetuity in YouTube. My grandkids will be watching this if they've got nothing better to do.
We talked about these two committees. Fortunately, the Capital Outlay Committee has two individuals sitting on it from the Finance Committee. So there's always been, working together. And that goes back to Peter and myself and the new youngies. Thank you.
The youngsters. I love it.
Speak for yourself.
Okay, so it's up to you guys. If you're done, you can adjourn. If not, then we'll sit and listen.
Motion to adjourn?
Second.
Motion to adjourn?
Thinking about it. Second.
Thank you.
All in favor?
Truly, thank you for coming.
Thank you. See you again.
I'm sure we will.
Thank you for the opportunity.
No problem. So Eric, we've warmed up a seat for you up here.
Here or here? Right here?
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah.
You can make yourself comfortable. I'd take you up here, but we don't have room now.
No, it's fine. It's fine.
So how are you doing?
All right, so,
Just wait until everybody filters out and... Okay.
okay, so, well, thank you for having me, and thank you for hiring our firm to help you in this interim period. We had a good meeting today with Tony and Megan to talk about a few different issues, and I joked around with them, because initially, we had Ed here, he set up a timeline. I could feel my arm twisting to accelerate our timeline for closing.
I think that was me that was twisting it.
I know, but, so, we've talked about it, and so basically, as far as the accounting goes, our goal is to have the books closed and the balance sheet submitted for the certification of free cash by September 30th. So that's what our goal is. That'll bring Harwich into the upper echelon, even though you don't have a finance director. That's a good timeline, but you have us, so that's why it's going to be done by.
I'll love you even more if it's September 15th.
So that's it. That's a good.
Can you try for the 15th?
Yeah, we're going to use. It's going to be an aspirational goal, as you've heard that saying before.
I generally don't use the word aspirational. I use goal.
Yeah, so we're going to do that. There's a lot of sausage that needs. It's called the sausage factory. There's a lot of stuff that has to happen to make that possible, and we're working with that. We're working with your treasurer, your town administrator, your assistant town administrator.
Just let me interrupt you 1 second. The reason, because it's not just me saying I want to annoy Eric today, calling you. There's things that we discussed previously in executive session that are going to be impacted by the number that you can deliver, and we need to have a credible number, and we can't have the discussions that we need to have until that happens. So the 15th is really not just aspirational, it's really, we need that number. And if you need some more resources, we would love you to dump them into this discussion, because in fairness to the administration, we have to develop something from that in order to be able to move forward for this budget.
No, I understand totally. I actually talked with some people on my staff too. I said, we got to get this done. If you have to put, if you're working 10 hours a week, if you put 20 in just to get this thing done ASAP.
That's the spirit.
Yeah, if you have to put the whole firm down here, we will, but we'll do whatever we can to get that done. So, and I see your timeline here kicks off like in January 2026.
That's only after the budget's baked in the cake, and we know that we used to do this in the budget, but we are going to put it in free cash, but what's that number?
Right, so my goal is to have the free cash, submitted, by September 30th.
15th?
And I'm gonna try for it, but I'm not gonna promise it, so.
I promise I'm not going to, I promise I'm not going to stop asking you
No,
either.
that's fine, that's fine. And then, the other thing, before the end of the year, we'll have the tax rate recap done, like, on the accounting side. So you guys, we talked about that a little bit today, about like timing of when you guys have your reclass hearing. We want to get that stuff done. And I want to get the Schedule A done, too. It's another report that goes to the state. So by the time this January date comes, I want to have 25 buttoned up, closed, and so forth. The other part of the equation, too, is, because of staffing issues down there and stuff, I want to try to improve the timeliness of the information. So I'm going to try to get 26 posted and up to date. So when you're dealing with like a January review, hopefully we'll have, revenues in the system that you can say, what have we done so far this year to date, like that type of thing. So I understand that. And, my takeaways from this meeting, thank you for inviting me, but if I had to break this down, it's like simply, is that there's, you'd like a 5-year budget forecast. You'd like the projected debt service, because I see all these borrowing authorizations, 30 million here, 50 million there.
Pretty soon it's real
Yeah,
money.
It's like taking a hand grenade and throwing it out, and someday you're gonna walk, when they come due, it's gonna blow up. So there's gonna be cost implications to that. So my takeaway from here is, we've talked with Tony about it, Megan today, we're gonna work together. As a matter of fact, I actually set the invite for next Thursday. You did. So during the meeting, I already set up a meeting for next Monday. We're gonna talk with the treasurer, and we're gonna get a projected debt, debt service based upon the borrowing authorization. So good, bad, or indifferent, we'll know, kind of where you stand. And so that all makes sense to me. Now, as far as like the operations of the office go, one of our challenges were, you had a great assistant town accountant. She was so great that another town took her, which is fine. So Tony and Megan are working hard, vetting out some candidates to fill her position. And we talked today, and I feel pretty good about like the options there. So we'll get that running. And then your treasurer collector's office used to be a weakness because you had no staff, no treasurer collector. But now that you've hired internally and got some new people in the position, it's kind of turning into become like a steady strength. It's like fully staffed down there, so we're going to take it. So I like that. So
We'd like to hear good news occasionally, too.
and then the other positive thing is with your assessor, and I forget who the chairperson of the Board of Assessors, he went to a meeting. There's been some outstanding issues that have been going on for years, like.
Richard's going to be very sad that you can't remember him.
I'm sorry, but there's issues that have been going on for years now. The assessor's working really hard that we might be able to resolve some of these old tax things, which is good too. So that's all good news. So we have our work. We have to roll up our sleeves. We have a work cut out for us to meet the expectations of the board, and that's what we're going to do. And I'm glad. Tony actually was the town administrator in my former town, my town now. So I thanked him for his service there. He goes, "You never heard of me?" I said, "That's a good thing, because if I do hear of a town administrator, it's usually a problem. If you don't hear from him, it means things are running smooth." So that's it.
With that said, before I go to the board, I just want to remind you, the one reason that you're also here was so you could hear from the Finance Committee and the Capital Outlay Committee that I'm not having to refer to conversations. I think you understand now why it is that we're asking. That's the why, but the ask is still the 15th.
I know, I get it.
So,
I get it.
Pete?
No, I don't really have anything. I understand the situation we're in. I appreciate the efforts of your crew. Clearly, there's some things that I'd like to see either different or improved upon, but it's less of a priority than getting the book settled and the numbers where they need to be. At some point, and it may take until the new finance director comes on board, is not only, you know, where we are in current fiscal year, but how that compares to past fiscal years. That's, to me, it's really important, because we keep hearing about there's uncertainty in the budgets. And I don't mean locally, I'm talking, you know, within the Commonwealth, nationally, whatever, that people are uncertain where the economy is going. So to have the ability to look at a snapshot in time and say, okay, you used, I think, January of FY '26. I'd love to know where we stand in FY '26, but I also like to know how that would compare to FY '25 January and FY '24 January. Are we trending in the right direction? Are we starting to see things tail off? Is it more robust than we ever anticipated? So those are the types of things that I think we as a board need to see, but more importantly, you know, town administration needs to see. As you start to plan these budgets out, it's a guessing game to a certain level, but if you're using historical data and you're using it consistently, then it's probably going to help you develop things as you move forward. And when we don't really have a clear snapshot of that, it makes it very challenging, especially for us, to sit here and bless a budget when we're just, sounds like a good number. And so that to me is very frustrating. But again, I realize you're a consultant. You're trying to patch this together now, especially since Mr. Spellman left. And there's greater priorities in that. But at some point, if that could become part of what we do on a consistent basis, that would be fabulous.
Yeah, no, absolutely, and that's understood. And just to let you know, there is a tool on the DLS website, Division Local Services, that we submit as a town, Schedule A with revenues and expenses, and they do trend analyses, because they have all the information. And you could go to that site and get charts, and it may not be perfect, but if you're ever interested, it's called the Municipal Data Bank.
Could you send us that link?
Yes.
Is that something we need to do through the town clerk, or is that?
No, anybody, it's public, you can just click on, and all that you can do your own trend analysis, compare tax rates with different towns, likewise populations. Tony, are you familiar with that site? Yeah. So some of the stuff that you're asking for, you might look at and say, that's what I was looking for. It says, oh, that's a good start, but I needed more detail. That's fine, but at least it might be a start that you can look at. Because the chairperson of your board asked me about certain towns, and I do have that information, but I was able to just go to the DLS Data Bank. I clicked off the towns that you talked about, compared the different budgets.
You're shattering my illusions. I thought you actually went out and did a lot of work.
Hey, work smarter, not harder. And with AI, the idea, the future is not going to be the person that can do all the analysis and stuff. It's the person that can leverage the tools that are available.
Person's probably not the right word, it's AI.
AI, but the person that can leverage it, or the person that knows, that puts in a question to AI, and it comes out all wrong, to have enough intelligence to say, no, that's BS, but to leverage what's there and use it and get it done efficiently. So that's going to be the future anyway, whether I'm here or not, or any of us, but like 30, 40 years, these jobs are going to be totally different.
Because I'm not going to be here then.
Good, thank you.
Anita? Mark?
Sure. Eric, thank you so much for your firm, helping us out. Really appreciate it. Last week, I got a monthly Munis report. Is there a little way you could give a little 2 or 3 sentence trend analysis, just so we can spot some things in a monthly thing, just so we're aware of it? You know, I look at it, and it's
just a bunch of numbers.
Yeah, it's hard to decipher. So if you could, and I didn't want to put any burn up, but just a little paragraph.
Yeah.
If you notice anything that we should be aware of, just to put that, hey, our overtime expenses are way up, or our revenues on the beaches are way. Just a quick little thing.
That's
so we
fine, and do like a little cursory review and say, just highlight, because that's what I do. As a matter of fact, before this meeting tonight, I had my staff, I said, put together the Harwich, combined balance sheet so I could take a look at it quick. So it takes them 5 hours to put it together, but in 2 minutes, I just picked out like certain things like, hey, why is this $2 million shortfall there? What's going on there? And no, not to alarm anybody, but it had to do with the Harwich Conservation Trust. You bought a conservation restriction for $2 million. I didn't see the $2 million in revenue on the books yet, so I'm working with the treasurer to get it booked. But to your point, I understand what you're saying. So just not just here you go, here's a report, but just maybe a couple of paragraphs like blah blah blah. Yep.
Just even a paragraph. Just
Yeah.
just I've noticed this, keep an eye on it, that's all.
Yep, okay.
But thank you very, very much for your
Yep.
service, and keep an eye open for a finance director.
Oh, yeah, I did have a couple in the queue, and as a matter of fact.
There's
one
just
of
one
them-
working for you.
So, absolutely, so just let me know when the ad goes out. And my job is to work myself out of a job.
Well, I hope you do.
I haven't done a good
sooner than
job yet, I'm still.
later. All right, thank you.
Jeff?
Mr. Chair, I don't dare ask a thing. I'll just say thanks for being here, Eric. It's always great to see you.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Eric.
All right,
The
thanks.
Before you
15th.
leave, I would say you don't need to wait for an ad.
Oh, yeah, okay, let me talk to the person I work with, and say, hey, but I know, I kind of get a feel what you need in Harwich, and honestly, when you talked about like a finance director, you actually had a finance director and a town accountant. You need one person as a town accountant doing the books, getting the closing and so forth. Then you need a true finance director whose main job would be projecting all the cash flows, this, that. So you need like two positions. You need one person in the office that can handle all the book closing, all the requirements, and another person that can work with the boards and stuff and project out and have their thumb right on the projected debt service, the rates and so forth. So I know that's what you need, you just have to fill in the positions.
To cut to the
above and-
chase, in 2004, we had that when we created
Right, so you
this.
understand how it worked.
It
worked
went
pretty-
backwards.
Yeah, it went pretty well. All right, thank you.
Thanks, Eric.
All right,
Thanks,
thank you.
Eric. All right. There's no public notice for this, is there? For the
Yeah, item A before it, anyway.
Public notice.
Item A before that, anyway.
Okay, I just wanted to ask. All right, disclosures. Anybody want to make a motion on that?
Where are we? Okay, Mr. Chair, I make a motion to approve a disclosure by a municipal employee of financial interest in a municipal contract as required by general laws, Chapter 268A, Section 20B, Francesca Cusack, Cape Cod Regional Technical High School and Harwich Community Center.
Second.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded. This is just technically part of the state ethics laws, but I mean, you've got one instrumentality of government and another instrumentality of government, so it's really not a horrible.
Contract, I think, is the big one, too, as a teacher
With the school system, you mean?
with the schools.
I was wondering, I couldn't
Yeah.
quite put the puzzle together, so thank you.
So it's been moved and seconded. Further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? It's unanimous. All right, now we're up to the request, the rather lengthy request for changes in the entertainment part of the liquor license for Ember Pizza.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman, members of the board, town administrators. My name is Dina Brown. I'm from the law firm of Bletzer.
You're going to have to sit so that the mic can pick you up.
Okay.
Thank you.
I'm from the law firm of Bletzer and Bletzer. First off, I would like to thank you very much for continuing the hearing from last week. My brother died suddenly and unexpectedly.
And you have our sympathies. We're sorry.
Thank you, and I appreciate that you continued it for me. We're here today because basically both Ember and the Port, since COVID, have been punished with the loss of having amplified music outside. What happened during COVID is a long time ago. I believe that removing amplification was a punishment for them, although there was no evidence that amplified music is what caused any of the noise, if there was any. The Port has not had a noise violation since 2009, and Ember has not had a noise violation since 2019. When they applied for their licenses year after year, there was no hearing provided to them, which is required under Mass General Law. If there is a modification to a license being made, then the petitioner is entitled to a 10 days notice and a hearing, and that wasn't done. There have been previous lawsuits where at one point there was an argument raised about how that amplification, they weren't treated fairly, et cetera. By the time it got to the court, that season's license has expired and the court deemed it moot. So we thought this is the time to apply for it now. We have a license in place. We would like our outdoor amplification back. There are other establishments in town that are as close to neighbors as the port is, that is located adjacent, down the road, down the other direction, and every year they apply for amplification, and without any discussion whatsoever, they're granted amplification. Again, under the statute, the standard is that the licensing authorities may modify a license if they can show that activities on the premises have adversely affected the public health, safety, or order. And there has been no evidence presented in the last 5 or 6 years that they have applied for their license with entertainment, that there has been any disruption to the public, any safety issues as a result of music. And I know what you're going to say, Mr. Powell. You're going to say, well, that's because...
It's Howell.
I'm sorry, Mr. Howell, I apologize. I feel that you are going to say, well, so it's working. They don't have amplified music, and therefore, there's been no complaints about it. However, that's just like saying Mr. Handler hasn't struck out at bat when he's never gotten up to swing. So all we are asking for here is parity, that we are treated the same as any other establishment in town. If the neighbors do not like amplified music, then currently that's not coming from our establishment. And other establishments who have amplified music have had multiple noise violations, yet year after year, when they apply for their entertainment licenses, it's never an issue. They're continuously granted amplification. Ours instead is changed to acoustic, a word that's not even defined in the town bylaws. So we are just looking for fairness. We're a restaurant, 2 restaurants. These are livelihoods for multiple people in town. And we are just asking that we can compete fairly with the other establishments in town. Taking away our amplified music means that patrons are going to go likely to another establishment that has amplified music, and then they may thereafter stay for multiple hours, thereby allowing that establishment to have a competitive advantage.
Mr. Chair, if I may,
After we go through
I'm
this...
going to
public-
recuse myself.
Oh, okay.
I just recognized
You got up to
that, I swung and missed. I've had previous dealings with one of the partners in the firm.
Oh, okay. Thank you for
Physically,
thank you for
so
disclosing that.
I'm going to sadly recuse.
Okay. The general public, anyone wish to speak on this? Just stand up in a queue.
I'm not quite,
When are you finished then?
well, the other thing we are requesting is when we apply for the time of 10 a.m. in the morning, and we're consistently given a time of 11 a.m. And, you know, you have to set up the equipment if you're going to have music and your employees are there. And so there was one time years ago, I believe, that music was playing outside, and somebody showed up and said, I'm going to give you a noise violation because you're not allowed to have music until 11. So we would therefore like it set back to 10. We would like the hours that we applied for on our application to be those that are granted.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yes, sir. Just identify who you are.
Michael Hershey, I live in Woodland Road. I have grandchildren living on 91 Pleasant Street, and their bedtimes is before 10 o'clock.
You're going to speak up a little bit more.
Anyway, the children go to bed before 10. You can't call the police and say it's too noisy at Embers and/or the port before 10 o'clock. And many times I've called the police and asked them, to please have them quiet the music down. I didn't make a formal complaint, but you can hear it. But you don't have to hear it. You can feel it. You can feel the thump, 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 thump right through the floor of your house. And to say that the amplified music doesn't contribute to noise is absurd. That's what it's for. And the reason they like it loud is because it makes the patrons drink more whiskey. And so they make more money, but they make it at the expense of the whole neighborhood. Now, about the dancing, I think that's kind of interesting to have outside dancing. I can see people driving by being so excited about the dancers that they go round and round the block and maybe have a traffic issue. But as far as the noise is concerned, it was wonderful when they had to resort to acoustic music, and we didn't have to listen to the thump, thump, thump until 10 o'clock and afterwards, and sometimes just have to call the police.
But they haven't had it.
You'll excuse me for a second. This is our meeting, not yours. If you want to be heard, you can ask to be recognized, but I'm going to suggest you might want to wait until the public comment is over and then hold your opinions until then.
Pardon me.
But I was very thankful when the board decided to not allow the outside amplified music. And I hope we don't have to go back to it. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Further people from the public?
Hi, my name is Maura Sherry. I abut the port, and I don't think that this, it's already a nuisance. It's an untenable situation for anyone who is a neighbor. I don't think the remedy is to exacerbate the situation. I think perhaps addressing the other establishment that does have that happen. I have called, and I'm surprised there hasn't been a violation, because I have called the police probably 4 nights out of 7 every week. I cannot sleep. They get out at 1. I've called, I can't even tell you, people have actually, just the other night, I made a police complaint. There's an opening in the fence, so they want that music to be, people, young people, came through the fence, they came into my yard. It's an untenable situation, and I think they're a nuisance. It interferes with my enjoyment of my home. I can't even sit out on my deck. The music, there's a cacophony of music from the port and Perk. It's already changed the character and safety of the town as it is. To add to the situation, I mean, if anybody drives down Main Street, you can see that the crowds, the lines outside, the disruption to the people of the town. I can't fathom that they already have this situation and they want more. It already is a disruption for my comfort as living in the town. And I really, really highly, highly suggest that this doesn't happen. It's already very difficult to be a neighbor. And I have texted the owner. He said, anytime you have a problem, text me. They've stopped communicating back, so I just called the police. I'm shocked that there hasn't been a violation, because I'm calling in noise complaints all the time to the police. If someone could tell me who I should be making this to so that they would have on record noise violations, I'd love to know. I've just been calling the police. And I can't even tell you how many times this summer. And they are taking up the sidewalk also. So you give an inch and they take beyond liberties. I have photos I'd be happy to share with anybody. The Uber drivers just stop in the middle of the street to let people off. They take up so much room. The other day I saw someone with a stroller and their child, and they had to go around and step out into the street. That's not safe. Something has to be done to curb them, not make it worse.
Thank you. I will say to anybody who's going to talk that we need to stay on point to the just the
I'm
entertainment.
sorry that but.
No, I get it.
I drifted.
There's been a lot of water under our bridge, too.
But yes, but I'm just saying that my point is, I find it almost incredulous that that they are a nuisance, a sound nuisance already, and they're looking to become even more of one to 12 a.m. That's incredulous to me. And that's why I'm here, and that's why I waited to speak. Thank you very much.
Thank you. I will note that we also have people online, and you may want to raise your virtual hands to see if you can get, to get noticed. Well, that was almost in parallel. To get noticed, but in the meantime, we're still going to stay in the room for people who want to make public comments.
Hello, everybody. My name is Martha Mason. I live directly across the street from Perks and the Port. And I personally haven't called, but the noise is a serious concern. And I don't think it's fair. I didn't know that Perks was permitted to have outdoor amplification and the Port wasn't. I think maybe we should reconsider to go acoustic. Harwich Port is growing dramatically and drastically from when I was a kid. And the town, we have to start adjusting how we handle it because it's going to be a safety concern and just a concern for the neighbors. The noise is a problem, not just from the music, but there's a lot of people down there. It's packed and it's late, and then there's drunk people yelling and doing all kinds of stuff. And I've talked to Griffin. He's been very open and perfectly willing to, work with me, but I just don't see why we need outdoor amplification for these hours. And I think if Perks has that, we should revisit that. They had a yoga class in the morning a couple weeks ago, amplified, and it was very frustrating. So I just think that adding more is a slippery slope, and as more and more businesses come into Harwichport, everybody's gonna want outdoor amplification. I lived in New Orleans. Do we want it to be like Bourbon Street? Probably not. So it's just something to consider for the future of downtown. It's getting crazy down there. And I also have lots of videos and traffic, and I will be forming a note to the traffic and safety people as well.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Public comment still in the room?
Hi, Bob Nickerson, Harwichport. I've shared with you some of my thoughts, so you knew ahead of time, because I know you're busy. But, the new license that's now for entertainment now has a nuisance provision in there. And so it doesn't have to be just sound, it's also a nuisance. And first, let me say, Ember, for the last 2 years, has been very good because they did not have music outside, acoustical music like this. So I am very concerned, since I'm about 750 feet away from them, and I've heard that before in prior years. But last 2 years, you got to give them credit. They did a great job, and I'm not going to complain about that at all. I am very concerned about where this will go. Right now, our bedroom is about 50 feet, 30 feet from the road. At 12 to 1 o'clock at night, all we hear is going down the road, screaming, yelling, whatever. Throwing those nice big orange cans into our yard. Now, that has nothing to do with this music. What it does, it's about a nuisance. Where do these people coming from? Well, they're not coming from anywhere but bars at the time. So right now, giving them a chance to have more music outside, I agree 100% with you, is ridiculous. I agree with you that we don't need acoustical music. Acoustical, no, we don't need live music. And to go from 10 a.m. to 12 a.m., that is absurd. So I think, we have a definition, nuisance, harmful or offensive to others. That's now in the bylaw. So think about that when you vote, right? 100 feet from the boundary line of the premises, that means their property. They can have that noise. But it isn't curtailed at 10 o'clock or whatever. This happens any time of the day. You hear that noise, beyond that limit, you can call. It's a nuisance. During that time, you can call. So it's not just during off hours. It's not at 10 o'clock. You can call if that noise is past that boundary condition. So you need to remember that in the public. That's important. Everybody should have their quiet, safe space and live in their backyard and not have to hear these things. So I've talked many times about this, but I think this is not a good decision to move in this direction. And I would also encourage what she said, take it away. We don't need this. We have much too much going on already, and it's been a very challenging summer for the police and also the residents. Thank you.
Further comments from the audience? Is anyone online?
Bob hello?
Hello?
Can you hear me?
Yes, identify yourself for the
Oh.
public.
Hi, this is Bob Cohn from Pleasant Street. Good evening, Mr. Chair and members of the board. I wanted to point out a couple things. It was mentioned about adversely affecting the safety and welfare, and that comes from section 110D. It also mentions the repose of neighbors, and that's not just sleeping, that's being comfortable in your home. I conducted a noise survey in 2019 and tracked what would be noise violations, plainly audible noise beyond 150 feet from 4 different venues, including Perks, the Minnow, Port, and Ember. I don't have the chart with me. I can provide it at a later date if necessary. But the distance the sound carried was incredible. We could hear Ember from our house on Pleasant Street, 1,200 feet away. Could hear it from Ember down by the Cape Sea Grill. We could hear music from the Port all through the town. And both Ember and the Port were worse offenders than either Perks or the Minnow. During those bad old days, we heard music every night of the week from one place or another. And the idea that you would add another amplified outdoor entertainment venue in the same area as one that's currently going would overload the area. These were really bad old days that we had. The town went through a lot of trouble with this, and it really was destructive for the community. But nothing much has changed. So far, there's been no attempt to figure out how to make things work between venues and neighbors, no attempt to figure out how to relieve neighbors of being disturbed by noise, no attempt to relieve neighbors of the burden of having to repeatedly report infractions, no attempt to develop a noise management program of any sort, no change in enforcement methods or results, and there's no change in the overlong process of noise violation hearings that only result in slaps on the wrist. Nothing has changed in the last several years in any significant way. So there's really nothing been done to change the equation that we had before, which was creating all these immense difficulties for the town. And given that, there's really no expectation, we shouldn't expect that there's any reason to have a different result than we had before. Reopening the licenses and expanding the licenses is really asking for trouble, particularly given that crowd noise has become such a problem for the immediate abutters. Thank you very much.
Anyone else online wish to? Candy, do you want to say something? Yeah, sure.
My name is Ken Mason, and my wife and I own the property, formerly the Mason Jar, which is right across the street from the Port. And I'm opposed to outdoor amplified music throughout Harwichport. I think one of the things that harkens back to the days when I was the chairman of the Harwich Planning Board and we were working on a master plan for the town of Harwich, one of the things we really wanted to accomplish, and the town has been working on this for decades, is to keep Harwichport the quaint village that it always was. And they've also, although it is zoned commercial, the town also has made an effort to create a mixed-use zone. We have the overlay district in Harwichport, which allows residential use, and the town has been encouraging residential use in Harwich Port. I can tell you from my knowledge is that 150 feet from the port are 6 residential uses. And I'm not even talking about going down C Street or to Braddock Lane or any of those other areas. I'm talking about on Route 28. And 3 of those residential uses have small children living there. 10 o'clock is way too late if you are inclined to approve the amplified music. I would say 8 o'clock would be more reasonable. Wednesday night in the port, we have the bands playing. 8 o'clock, done and dusted. They've got their instruments put away and everything is fine. It's a little bit off the subject, but I would also point out that it's hard for me to imagine how Ember and the port need to have amplified music when they're already over capacity. Where are the extra patrons where are they going to put them? Every night in July and August, they have people on the sidewalk lined hundreds of feet waiting to get into those establishments. Where are these other people going to come from that they're going to attract with amplified music? I don't understand how that is going to work. We have had a lot of problems and a lot of discussions with the police this summer about other antics, and I won't get into that because that's not the subject that we're talking about. We're just talking about the music issue right now. But we will be, when summer is finished, coming up and trying to talk to the selectmen about how we can address some of these other issues with Perks and Ember and the port and other establishments. The other thing I would say is if the granting of amplified music is, as this lady has said, sort of a matter of course.
Their lawyer.
The lawyer. Is granted as a matter of course, and you have all these businesses packed together in the town. We got a huge new building coming online across the street from Cumberland Farms that's going to be commercial. You've got other uses. The port and the beer garden are 30 feet from each other. If you have competing amplified music, it's going to create a cacophony that is going to be unbearable. And so those are my thoughts, and I hope that the Board of Selectmen gives consideration to the residential uses in the town. Thank you.
Thank you. I repeat, is anyone online that wishes to make a further comment? I would ask the police chief to come up for a few seconds. Chief, I know there were some opening statements that were alleging certain things, and I just want to parse because there's a difference between violations that get enforced and then have penalties imposed. Are we saying that everything's fine, nobody's making any noise complaints in that area right now? Or that indeed during COVID or before that, everything was just great?
What I'll say before COVID is we were dealing with amplified music issues. I do remember dealing with those from Ember, more specifically. And I will say, from my point of view of bringing these forward to the board, that was handled, I think, quite well, and those complaints went down dramatically. Some of the complaints talked about tonight, not necessarily dealing with noise, but other issues that affect the neighborhood.
Okay. And for the record, I'm just going to say for the representation, actually I could ask, do you know how deep the zone is for that commercial use?
I don't understand.
It's a simple question. You know how deep the zone is that they're located in?
No.
It's 150 feet, and it's residential right after that. The answer for you bringing up anything other than that area is that area has the shallowest depth from front to back of any place in Harwich. There are other licenses that are issued elsewhere, but their conditions are different, the circumstances. And no one here can presume what we are going to do or not going to do with their neighbor. But I will say that oftentimes, and this is indisputable, you came into this in the middle of this, oftentimes the complaints, I believe the chief can confirm this, when the complaints came in, oftentimes it would be, it's not me, it's my neighbor.
I'm aware of that.
Okay,
And that
so,
works
and that allowed both parties to get away with a whole bunch of stuff. So I believe that you've had to live that experience, is that it wasn't us, it was them, at various junctures in time over the last 5-6 years.
Or during times of amplified music.
Yep. So, and I will state for the record, and then I'll allow you to make some comments. After we got done with doing that, it was me that made the motion for acoustic music, and there is a definition of that. I don't care whether it's under law. It's unamplified. It's like a guitar or a violin or something. That's an acoustic instrument, a piano that's not amplified. But it was applied in Orleans to the Barley Neck Inn. They railed against it themselves, and they lost. There is an absolute carve-out if we can prove circumstances require that. We may wind up having to do something with other licenses, but for sure, if we treat everybody the same, it isn't going to be everybody the same is going to get amplification. There could be the other way. And this, we have been able, and you're right about that, we have been able to tamp down on a problem that was pervasive. But without getting too involved with what occurred, are we looking, say, at the 4th of July week where there was tons of empty seats in that restaurant, and your problem had nothing to do with crowd control there?
I'll say every place was very busy this summer.
And they were refusing customers until they could have people finish, and they were allowed to. They were, I will grant you, doing the right thing under their license because they were refusing entrance so that they were not overcrowded. But I think the public also needs to understand that the entertainment license is not just an entertainment license anymore. The legislature, after COVID, did a carve-out for outdoor pouring and for outdoor entertainment. We're trying to get a handle on things to be able to make sure that people who preceded all of this nonsense but still have the ability to live a life where their zone, where it begins to be residential, has the amenities and the peace and quiet that they want to enjoy on their own. And that may mean that a bunch of other people are going to have to start looking at acoustic entertainment. It's not that we're picking on anybody, we're trying to get a handle on something. And we do know through our council that that's a legitimate concern that we can exercise in determining this license request. Chief, you want to enter?
I have nothing else to add.
Okay.
Okay.
Now.
If I may speak to some of the comments that were made. With regard to Mr. Cohn's noise survey, I remember watching that hearing where that transpired. That's not a scientific study. I'm just going to leave it at that. It seems to me that people who have read this or heard about it have not read the petition accurately. We are not asking for amplified music till 12 a.m. We are asking for amplified music until 10 p.m. That's what our application says. That is what the neighbor has. Again, we're not throwing anybody under the bus here. We are also tired of this one pointing at that and that one pointing at this one. What we are looking for is parity. It is incredulous to me that the port could be told that they cannot have amplified music for the last 5 years because of their proximity to residences, when their direct abutter is the same exact distance to those residences. And so, again, this is not, if the town decides that there will be no outdoor amplified music, so be it. At least there's parity and everybody is treated the same way. That's what we're asking for, because although neighbors might think, they just, the line, this and that or whatever, we're talking about economics here, and we're talking about competition. And they should be on the same level playing field as the other establishments in town. So if you want to do away with amplification, we don't have a problem with that. It has to be handled the same way with everybody. The other thing is, I would really like to hit home on this for the members of the audience, is that the line forms outside of the port, not because they have reached capacity, but because there are still diners in there. And they want to make sure the diners finish eating before the crowd comes in. And I think that is just showing respect to their customers. Also, again, for everyone's knowledge, last year, I believe it was this board that said, you know, there were a lot of problems with overcrowding, calls for overcapacity, et cetera. And the town said last year, every establishment, you need to look at your liquor licenses, and you need to look at the capacity on them. And that's your occupancy. And so before next year, this is the end of last summer, you need to supply engineered reports and plans, and you need to have an engineer tell us what your occupancy is. The Port and Ember spent thousands of dollars on that with engineers and legal fees. I worked for months with them to get their capacity down. And the capacity, just so that people know, the capacity for the port is 240, and the capacity for Ember is 210. And that is based on engineers submitted it to the building department. I worked with Jack Mee, I worked with Mr. Wingard. It came back as to how many bathrooms do you have, how many sinks do you have? Because we thought we had a larger amount. But when it came down to looking at the plumbing code, that's what the result was. The abutters liquor license says their capacity is 51. And when the police show up, the fire department show up, other people show up, they're saying there's no capacity for outdoors. You can have however many people you want. This was just said last week to somebody. It was actually a call, you could probably get the police record, a call was made from a neighbor complaining that there was overcrowding.
Here's where I'm going to stop you, because that's another establishment. As a matter of fact, it's subject to a hearing that's upcoming. I'm not going to presuppose anything relative to them. This is not about my next-door neighbor's a bank robber, so I can be a bank robber.
No, I'm not talking about that. What I'm talking about is that this town told all of the establishments they were sick and tired of dealing with calls for capacity. Your capacity is what is on your liquor
I'm aware we
license.
established that capacity.
That's correct. How many other establishments supplied plans from engineers over the summer?
Again, this hearing is about your clients.
But this was a
And
comment
it's about,
that
and
was
it's about
raised.
the entertainment, and it's about the
I
noise.
understand, but the comment was raised.
And I have disregarded that also because it is not on point.
That's fine. Again, I just want to make it clear, we want to be treated like any other establishment. It's high time that happens. I know there's been animosity through the years. We are trying to turn a corner. I believe if you ask Chief Considine, we have been cooperating in all regards. I believe if you ask the building department, we've been cooperating in all regards. So I'm just, with regards to the entertainment license, if other establishments have amplification, then we would like to have amplification.
And it is currently more under control, and there's a stasis to that.
That's exactly what I said at the beginning. That's incorrect. You cannot
But I
sue
can,
somebody if you don't have
but I
done it.
can tell you it's still 150 feet deep, and it'll be 150 feet deep next week, next month, next year. You will never, if they want to pull the business and put it in another area of town and have this discussion, then that's an appropriate discussion to have. They are located where they are located, and we have imposed what we have imposed.
And so are the other
behaviorally, there have been things that I'm not going to ignore.
With regard to music? 'Cause we're
With
talking
regard
about
to music
entertainment right
and entertainment in general. So whatever you'd like to do as a consequence of tonight is what you want to do, but I'm just saying that there has been, you can't ignore that there were problems, and you can't ignore we changed something and it did have a positive result. So I'm going to leave this to the board to discuss about what they want to do, because there is a request in front of them. If somebody wants to make a positive motion, they're free to do so.
Before that, Mr. Chair, and please, between you and the town administrator, feel free to educate me, but this was not posted as a public hearing. And I'm wondering
An
if
amendment to a license request.
correct, but does it need to be a public hearing?
I don't think so. I just asked if it was.
So we don't believe it needs to be held as a public hearing. You know, there's a lot baked into this. There's a downtown, you know, Harwich Port that clearly abuts residential neighborhoods. It's going to be nearly impossible to get all sides on the same page as far as the amount of traffic, the amount of noise, the amount of disruption, and then the balance of having enough attraction for the businesses to thrive and prosper. I think we as a board, or I'll back it up, I think the town needs to figure out what they want to do and what they want to be. You know, when I look at it, when I think of the establishments in town, do we want to be restaurants that serve alcohol and have entertainment? Or do we want to be clubs that on occasion serve food? And I'm not sure that there's a healthy balance between that, and this isn't about the applicants before us, this is a generalized statement with all the establishments. And I'm not sure, you know, that we're prepared to, you know, answer any of that tonight, because there's a lot more work that needs to be done with that. There's clearly an argument that can be made for amplified outdoor music. However, I would agree, you know, where these things are located, 10 o'clock, and shame on me, because I was on this board when we approved one of the other establishments for this year, that they have a 10 p.m. License for outdoor amplified music. I think it's inappropriate for that area of town. I'm not saying we need to abolish all amplified music, but perhaps there's a time frame that it makes sense for the establishments to operate such entertainment. Again, I know famously I ramble on, but it's because there's so much more to it than just a decision of, do we grant this or not grant this? And, you know, I don't believe, if the matter comes before this board, and I've said this a million times, I don't believe that I have to rubber stamp anything. Otherwise, there's no reason for me to be here. I might as well go home. We have the ability to work within some parameters, and time frame isn't a given for any establishment. The level of entertainment isn't a given for any establishment. That's why we sit here. At this point in time, I'm not prepared to make a motion. I'm happy to be quiet in a minute and listen to my colleagues. I'm not prepared to make a motion to grant anything to any entity. But I think it comes back to my overarching point that we need to decide who we want to be and how we want to operate. And then, to council's opinion, we need to be consistent. And you know, I think that is, you know, one of the areas of the many we need to work on as a group, and bring in some of the folks who have far more knowledge on this than us to help educate us. So that's my 3-minute rant on that, maybe 4. Thank you.
Thanks. Nita?
Just so you know that I'm very new to this board. I do have experience here in town. However, I think I will agree with what Mr. Pekarsky has said. I'm wondering if we could really take a look at this. I don't know if I'm really ready to make a motion, but I will, you know, to defer to what.
You don't have to make a motion.
No,
I
no.
asked if you would like to make a motion.
No, no, right? At this point, I'll just defer to see what Mr.
I will also
Keller-
note that this is extraordinary. We have, to my knowledge, and I've served for 15 out of the last 25 years, I have never seen a request more than halfway through the license period to change the entertainment.
That's,
Never.
You haven't dealt with me before.
Well, that's great. You never dealt with me. Mark?
Yes, thank you, Dina. I appreciate your presentation, and I'm sorry about your brother passing
Thank
away. As you can see from the neighbors, I mean, halfway through the season, as Mr. Howell said, I think would be in a tough position to really make a vote on it tonight. I hear you on the parity issue. I hear you loud and clear, and I think you've made a very good point. Mr. Cohn had sent in some a note to us today that, where he mentioned that the businesses could be proactive in trying to take action. And I would suggest to Mr. Cohn that if he could get your email, that he could share that with you. But I just don't think, based on what I'm hearing from neighbors, that we're in any position, at least myself, to vote on this tonight. But again, loud and clear, I hear parity, and I hope you'll give us the time to discuss that and come up with something for the next season.
I appreciate that, thank you.
But I do warn you that that parity might actually wind up meaning that nobody gets to do anything out there but acoustic entertainment.
As long as it's fair. That's
But
all I'm
But
asking.
you could pass along one thing to your client, though, that it is not a great strategy to always blame your neighbor for the noise.
We have not, I did not do that.
That has been happening with great frequency through the years.
That's before I got here.
Okay, but they're still the same people.
You know, we are trying to change things here, Mr. Howell, and I would hope that you would listen to us with an open mind. We have new members of the board here who aren't familiar with the history, what's been going on. They have, you know, I just think everything that's presented should be listened to with an open mind and not something that happened 10 years ago.
5.
5 years ago.
5. And that's current events to me, not history.
Well, I disagree with that. I
Fine,
disagree
but
with that.
again, we're not trying to drive him out of business. He is getting his entertainment license for indoors amplified, and I'll leave it at that. If you want to put this request in next year, by then we should have this discussion we want to have about, you know.
Well, my final comment, if I may, would be that when the licenses were granted this year, and they were different than what was applied for, the applicants should have received notice under Mass General Law 140, Section 183A, and they should have had an opportunity to be present to discuss it. And interestingly enough, your own town council has written on this topic, and it's been published, and it says the exact same thing. So with regard to this year, in your comment that you're surprised that we're doing it in the middle of the year, it's because I was brought in and I realized that they were not given due process. And so at this point, technically, they should be given the full license they applied for with amplification because there was no hearing.
And you can add to the next 5 years of litigation if you pursue it that way. That would be fine with me. I am just saying to you that the way this is played out, we've gotten some control over this. The license has already been granted, and I don't think we should pretend here that this was a new request. This was not just something we imposed last year. This has been going on for 5 years.
Correct, and it was part of an appeal in one of the previous
Which, how did that work out?
Could you please have some respect?
If your clients have respect for me, I will give them
You're
reciprocal
talking to
respect.
me. I'm asking you to have some respect for me, okay?
And vice
how did
versa.
it work out? When it got to court, the time of the license had expired, and the court deemed it moot. So if we wait to the end of the year and it goes up to court, again, a court will say, well, it's an expired license, we can't discuss it.
My answer to you is, it's clever to say the complaint. There were 4 different courts, the ABCC, there was a federal court case.
You're going off track now.
No, I'm not, because your clients launched everything, including suing each of us for $1 million.
This is irrelevant to what
It is
we're
not
here
irrelevant.
today.
You are different, they are still the same clients.
Well, they may be
We
receiving
changed the
different
license
things.
for a reason, and it has actually worked.
You need to just understand, they may be the same people, they are receiving advice from me. I did not represent them during those other lawsuits, and those of you who know may realize that I don't work in the same fashion, and I am trying for everybody to get along and work together. And that's what I'm asking this board to do.
Thank you.
Thank you. Are you taking a vote or not?
There is no motion, so there is no vote.
Are you going, I mean, you have to respond.
No, we don't. You asked for, you requested, there was no positive motion, and that's the way government works, is if you want to take that up, you have the opportunity when the license expires.
Rules of order.
Thank you.
Have a good night all.
All right. We can get Jeff back. If he hasn't left the premises.
So now on old business.
No, we are not. We are with NSTAR and Eversource.
Oh, sorry, I missed that.
But I'm waiting for Jeff so he can have this crucial vote on NSTAR.
Okay. I have to recuse myself on that one, too?
No, you don't. Unless you have a telephone pole anywhere near you.
Thank you.
All right, item D.
Go, Mark.
Someone want to make a motion, or
Yeah, let me see.
based on a
Mr. Chair,
recommendation of the Assistant Town Administrator?
Do you want to make a motion on D?
Yeah, except it needs to be based on the recommendation provided us by the Assistant Town Administrator.
Okay, I held a hearing for, a poll hearing for Main Street, Eversource Energy. They want to install 2 new manholes and approximately 250 feet of 2 to 6 inch conduit on Main Street. And this is the Main Street that is, the north side of Lothrop. So it's not Main Street going downtown, it's the
branch off.
people call Main Street Extension.
Sure.
feature. There were some people there for the hearing, no objections to this particular project. However, it was brought up that the project on Lothrop Ave was taking longer than expected, and NSTAR and Verizon will be discussing why that project is not complete. So at the end of this hearing, I recommend that you approve this request.
Great.
Chair, could I ask something?
Sure. Yeah, sure.
Megan, I read in the permit that they're running the conduit because of the load that a privately owned solar facility will do. What is the privately owned solar facility that necessitates the extra conduit and wire?
So it isn't just one particular solar project, it's solar in general that's being utilized throughout town. Solar uses a greater amount of energy, they need larger conduit, larger wires to supply the solar.
So it's not like there's a big development of solar going on up in that area?
That's correct.
Okay, great, thank you. All set.
Do you want to make a motion?
Mr. Chair, I move that we vote to approve the Assistant Town Administrator's recommendation to grant permission by NSTAR Electric, DBA Eversource Energy, to install 2 new manholes and 250 feet plus or minus of 2 to 6 inch conduit on Main Street.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Further discussion? Pete?
Ironically, I think we received a correspondence today regarding the mess on Lothrop. And I'm wondering, and I realize Lothrop isn't done, but nonetheless, it's still a mess. And I'm wondering if we can put a caveat that any disruption to the road surface must be restored to its current condition and not an absolute obstacle course.
Administration have anything to say?
Well, I haven't seen the part of Lothrop, but I did read the letter that came in. I mean, it's probably standard in what they're supposed to do. I think what ends up happening is after the fact, it doesn't necessarily come out that way. I think it's part of their, I'll say an industry standard when you go back in and pave. I think you can put it in there, I think that's expected. The question is, when it doesn't happen, what recourse is possible to say, hey, the job you did, now it could be settling later, it could be a number of things that cause it, you know, it may be good for a while. I'd have to check and see what that recourse could be to go back and fix it, especially if it becomes a, you know, a hazard at some point. So,
Sure.
I think it's more on the back end, because I think that's the expectation, you know, when you look at, I'll call it industry standards, when you're paving, that it should be level and all of that. I deal with some of that on Route 39 right now with the
Right.
sewer project,
Right.
but, so I'm not sure how the board would want to, you know, verify that, but we can certainly engage with them and talk to them about that to make sure that they are, in fact, you know, paving after their work, and it's satisfactory to either DPW or whatever.
And, Mr. Chair, if I could, to the
Sure.
town administrator's comments, I would agree, and so the question does come back to recourse, right? And so in my world of recourse, you hate to utilize it, but it's called leverage, and approving these just allows them to move forward without any corrections being done on Lothrop. So, again, is Lothrop going to create any significant issues or harm? Probably not. But I think we want them to understand the significance of keeping the roads in better condition than they left that one while they're working on a project. So again, I'm not inclined to not support this because I think it's, you know, work that needs to be accomplished, but I think the message really needs to be delivered because it's not acceptable.
Agreed.
Can that be conveyed to them?
Yeah, I think my thought was on the letter we got today was ask, you know, Lincoln Hooper, the DPW director, to go out there and evaluate what it currently is, and we may need to send a letter to them and say, look, we looked at this, and it needs to be rectified, because it wasn't in that condition when you started.
Right.
It's kind of like you probably saw in the issues with double poles. Problem in every community, everywhere. I've dealt with it in every one I've worked in. And it's about getting leverage and what is the recourse to do that as well. And this is another one that's very similar, so we'll at least start there, and I can bring that back to the board, and we'll see what kind of response we get, and if we need to do something up the ante a little bit, we can see what that might look like, and perhaps ask council too as well on what the next course would be. So maybe the gentle approach first, get them to fix it, and then if not, we can look at something else.
Sounds good, appreciate that. Good.
Any further discussion? Is a motion on the floor to approve, at the recommendation of the Assistant Town Administrator, the 2 manholes. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? It's unanimous. E.
Mr. Chair, I move that we vote to approve the Assistant Town Administrator's recommendation to grant permission by N-Star Electric, DBA Eversource Energy, to install 7 feet of 1 to 3 inch conduit under the sidewalk on Cross Street.
Second.
It's moved and seconded. Further discussion?
If I could, Mr. Chair, I'd like
Sure.
to hear from the Assistant Town Administrator if there's anything she'd like to add to this.
This is a handhold that's going to be under the sidewalk and not in the road. And it's going to provide underground service to number 36 Cross Street.
Thank you.
Okay, any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? It's unanimous.
Mr. Chair?
Yes.
Would it be appropriate to ask if maybe someone in the audience, I believe, who's hanging out for the Walder Road stair, if we could take this out of order?
Yeah, sure.
Let Matt get out of here and get some shut-eye if he wants it?
The other one's going to be pretty quick, but go ahead.
Yeah, if the other one's going to be quick, that's what I don't know how we're...
Yeah, I'd like the ability to come back again because we're still not getting the methodology and how the town reserves the right to award this. It really needs to be stated more clearly than I'm reading. I know you're getting at the proficiencies, but up front, we may award in the aggregate, we may award in 2 services or not, and we don't have language really in there that gets to that point, at least to me.
We'll take a look at it, we'll sit down, we can talk about it tomorrow.
It's not bad, it's just, it's not quite ready yet. So there, Walther Road.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Mr. Handler.
Of course.
It doesn't mean I will not want to stay around for the discussion and possible vote on legal services that will come after this.
No, it's already passed.
You just did it.
We just did it.
We kicked it down the road.
Oh, I'm sorry.
But you're welcome to stay for the rest of the meeting anyway.
Well, thank you. Well, in that case, I thank you for getting me up here. Obviously, I'm looking forward to the update on Walter Road. I presume it's on the agenda because the board has something to say.
I was asked to put it on. I mean, typically what happens is we vote a position, we do something, and then it gets turned over to administration, and administration does what it does. It finds the right department to go ahead and do it. So I guess that's where we're at right now, is where are we?
So Megan put a nice memo into the packet for this evening.
Yeah.
So the Conservation Department submitted the statement of work, which basically outlines all the responsibilities for someone that may be interested in bidding for the project. Now that we have that, it needs to be then incorporated into a RFP to then be, sent out for prospective bidders to actually accomplish the work. So we're at sort of just before the big step of actually putting it out on the street, so to speak. And that's why you see the statement of work in there in terms of what the project actually, and those that bid on it will need to accomplish with that contract.
Well, thank you for the explanation. I expect to come in and hear some big number that the town would be spending.
That'll be when it comes back.
When it comes back. You'll see me.
You're right, but you're a little early.
You'll see me again. Excuse me if I'm not clear on what the possible vote on legal services. Am I able to comment on that in any way or
We're
not?
done.
Okay, no way.
We're not going to vote at all. We're going to tweak it a little bit tomorrow, and then
Gotcha.
we will have it back
Okay.
again.
Well, on the update of Walter Road stairs, may I ask for the board to consider a few things since I licked my wound. As you know, I was spending a lot of time before you expecting you to honor Josephine Jenkins' deed of gift. And for the benefit of those who weren't here to listen to me, the deed of gift was from my expectations and from the original legal assessment of the deed of gift requested by the Conservation Commission. KP Law came up with a position, which was that the stairs should not be rebuilt. This KP Law understood that the deed of gift had certain specifications. They were not followed through on by the town. The town did not remove the stairs. The stairs became well, maybe she wanted the stairs to stay, maybe she wanted the stairs to go. A lot of maybes into the picture. However, there nonetheless was KP Law's statement that the stairs should not be rebuilt. Now, something happened, which was that this board wanted to engage in a, let's say, more political discussion because they made a request for another opinion. So that goes to my future conversation with you about what legal firms you want to hire. Do you want to hire one that'll write a story for you the way you want it, or do you want to hire one that gives you a report that stands by the law? You've had it both ways here, and you decided to basically write your own legal opinion because you didn't want to deal with the fact that the stairs shouldn't be rebuilt. So that's what I do want to talk about at some point, because I do feel KP Law just basically said to the town, we'll give the select board whatever they want, because that's what they did. So thank you very much for your time.
I will take note that this isn't the first time that we've gotten multiple contradictory opinions from the same law firm.
Well,
I don't want to go too much more deeply into it, but it's more than just we asked for a particular opinion. This happens frequently.
Well, thank you, and I'm sure that's life, and I certainly understand that. But the motivation was political. So what I will say to you is, let's go forward with this, and I suggest there are a few things you might want to throw into the mix here when you talk further about Walther Road. Maybe a designation as a public beach, maybe a sign that says public beach, maybe take down the no parking signs in front of the property, maybe let everybody in town know they can go there to go to the beach if the town's money is going to be spent putting in a stair that probably in the next big storm will be washed away again. In other words, on balance, I think everybody got shot in the foot here. Thanks very much.
Okay. Next item's not a big deal. I just wanted to be able to get all our, everything straight. Jeff, just for you, for one part of this, the liaison position is a telephone. We vote on certain things, and you deliver that, and they tell you certain things, and you bring them back. At this point in time, just to clarify this, because now we've gotten the other board in another town back involved in something, we took a vote based on Pete's, pathway that began with the school committee. And you heard tonight that there was some other discussion that we want to have. We're kind of taking that path right now. We haven't voted to go back to having the bilateral discussion with the board because when we did the vote, we had a discussion about whether or not we should start in the same exact way. We've committed to that. There was a letter. Unfortunately, the letter's become a big deal, and it shouldn't be. But it doesn't mean we'll never do this, but we're going to do it methodically. And the way we promised to do it together is we were going to start with the school committee, which you are the liaison to. So it's going to continue to be a dialogue there. Probably not with the select board yet, because we don't have set ideas yet about what the agreement needs to change to be like. I know Mark's done a lot of research with other communities, with Mr. McMillan. There's been a lot of work done in general, and I just want to reiterate that right now, we're not doing that. That's on hold until we go through what it was that we voted and see what the response is from the school committee. All I'm saying is that team isn't happening for the immediate future.
I 100% understand that. My question back to you would be, what drives that narrative that you just presented?
The kerfuffle about the letter and whether it should have or shouldn't have gone to Chatham. Right now, where we're at, and I'm just clarifying this in general for everybody, for all the members, is that we're starting with the school committee. We'll see what they say first, and then we'll have to assess where we are. And then if we want to go directly to the select board in Chatham, that's what we're going to do. There's nothing else other than that.
Well, I understand that, and I understood that when I attended the school committee meeting. My only interest was to hear their discussion on their agenda item of the letter that we sent.
Okay.
And if the board would like, I can tell the board what the school committee said.
Sure.
I just want to make it clear, Mr. Chair, I'm not going there to speak on behalf of the board. I'm simply sitting there listening so that I can hear things firsthand. And as the liaison, if this board has an interest in what was said, I can bring it back to the board. And what was said was they're going to turn it over to a subcommittee to explore the next steps, and that'll happen on their September meeting.
Okay.
So I am just interested in the timeline.
And I don't have one, to be honest with you. So I think what we have to start doing when we have meetings is put you on an agenda to actually report each time about what went on, because all of the liaisons can only actually exercise authority insofar as the select board votes to do something. And when you say it, it's like we, meaning we voted.
Yeah.
So as long as we all have a clear idea, and that's where we're at, that's a good thing to know.
Yeah, we voted for improved communication, and that's all I plan on doing, is improving communication.
Okay, good. I just don't want to
Thank
get,
you.
I just
No,
don't want
of
to get
course,
too
I-
far along because they have expectations now that I don't want them to necessarily
I
have.
100% know where the board stood.
Before we move on, Mr. Selectman Handler, could you repeat as far as the September?
Sure. Just so everybody knows, I spent an hour and a half to hear about a 4-second narrative on the letter. It was, they are going to turn it over to the subcommittee. I assume there's a subcommittee that has been formed by the school committee to explore the next steps. And that will begin on in their September meeting.
The exploration will begin with the subcommittee in September.
So you and I have the same question, Mr. Piekarski, is, I don't know, and I didn't have the opportunity to ask.
Okay.
So I will, if I had to guess, I would guess that the subcommittee is going to get direction on the full school committee's next meeting, which will be in September, is what I thought when I walked away.
So with that said, perhaps we could ask the town administrator to reach out to the superintendent for greater clarity and timeframes related to their motion last week.
And that, I wholeheartedly support that, because my interest is in timeline.
Right.
And to not let this go into next year, wondering, what's going on.
Right.
So I would support that, Pete, 100%.
And actually, something good is going to come out of this, because you are hearing from us tonight, I personally support it, that Pete had brought up you know what, we got 75% of the obligation here, and we expect, since we have representation that's roughly equivalent to that, that there's going to be some concern about what our position is through the school committee. Because I think one thing that needs to be heard by the Chatham Select Board is, we're not talking about squeezing their taxpayers. We're talking about, in the future, this could affect all students, not just the Harwich students, but all students relative to how much money is available to be able to allocate to you.
And to your initial point, that this board is going to allow the school committee to do what the school committee has been directed to do, I would urge this board to do exactly what you and Pete have just done, which is stay on top of it and continue to move the needle forward.
We will. I think all 5 of us want to do that.
I wholeheartly agree.
So, all right, we know now what we want to convey. Although I do feel like there's some merit to talking to the school superintendent, but the reality is there's a disconnect, because the school committee is the school committee. They have a chair, and then there's the superintendent, and there's no direct relationship where he can tell the committee what to do. But I think the message probably needs to be conveyed before they come back in and say, this is what we need.
So the ask is to ask Superintendent Carpenter more about the approach and the timeline that the
Yeah.
subcommittee's going to use?
Because this year is-
Evaluating the letter, okay.
We anticipate this to be even a tougher year, so they have been using their excess and deficiency money to plug operations. That ain't going to last.
One time.
Mr. Chair, if I may add, thank you. The narrative tonight with capital outlay and the finance committee.
That needs to be conveyed too.
And the school committee, the school budget was a significant portion of that conversation tonight. And in order for all of us to be able to do the work we're supposed to do and not make anyone feel like we're late in getting them information, I think the select board needs to stay on top of this. And not only speaking to the superintendent of the school, but at their first meeting, when they received the letter, the discussion that the school committee had was, the Harwich Select Board needs to clearly define the why. Now, that hadn't gotten back to this board yet, I don't think. And I'm bringing it to this board now because I'm just a little concerned that if there's not consistent communication, months are gonna pass. And the why we are asking the school committee to do this, I believe this board needs to answer sooner rather than later and get them that information.
Okay. Again, that's the whole theme of tonight, is that we need to do it early, we need to do it right, and frankly, that, you're right, the FinCom and Capital Outlay both feel like they're involved, and I think we need to convey that, is that, you know, this is not just an open wallet, ultimately. There has to be some discussion, because they can't, the why? They can't vote something that we won't give them. Ultimately, if this has to be subject to an override, that's the why, and I don't know that that's quite getting through to people. We have 8 open contracts that we can't settle because we don't have enough money to do that. That's the why, and we actually represent 3/4 of the district, which is also the why.
So maybe we could get a discussion as to the why on next week's agenda so that we can clarify.
Okay.
And then move something forward to the school committee to satisfy their request.
You got it.
Thank you.
Okay. So,
Mr. Chair, I move that we vote to authorize Anthony Schiavi to file the applications and execute agreements for grant and/or loan assistance related to the Great Sand Lake Sewer Extension Clean Water Trust State Revolving Fund 19044.
Second.
it's been moved and seconded to authorize. Now, I know Pete's asked in the past, but this is necessary stuff, and it has to happen in a sequence. The documents aren't here right now, but everything has to start with a deadline date. June 30th, we have to have a contract in place for everything to go under the intended use plan up to the state so that they can give us the 0% financing. Everything is derivative from that. There's various things that we have to report on the progress of. Since I'm on the Clean Waters Board, I can tell you that we parallel what they want. So there has to be a number of documents, and then they have to be executed on time, or we got a problem. And historically, we've been doing it this way.
And, yeah, there's a number of milestones. I mean, this particular part, you know, there's an August 22nd deadline, and then you can see in there's an August 3rd deadline. So they're right, there's a number of milestones. We're just making sure we stay out in front and don't miss anything with the application package, and make sure that we're in the queue.
Well, I'm sure as you're saying this, that we can read into this that you will report to us as they occur, so that we know what's going on.
Correct.
Well, and I assume that the documents within the packet are the documents we're referring to.
Yeah, they're basically certifications.
Yeah.
So you'll notice on the second one, that's a certification from the water superintendent regarding the enterprise fund. So that's been completed. It's in our office downstairs. The remaining ones are ones that I would need to sign on the town's behalf with your blessing.
So, and I appreciate that. So to the overall point, this approach is fine. I'm not interested in giving blanket approach, and quite honestly, I don't care if there's a time frame. It's incumbent upon us and administration and our vendor to get the documents in time so that we can bless the signatures to go forward. And again, I think having these documents before us tonight is a clear indication of what it is, and what it shows us, what it shows the townspeople is full transparency, right? These are the documents we're signing to move this project forward, and, you know, there's nothing nefarious going on, and not that folks think there are, but it clearly shows our due diligence and transparency to them, and it holds us accountable as a board.
Sure. That's why I said if there's other stuff going on, we'd like to hear about it directly,
Right.
too.
So the motion is to approve what I understand is the documents before us this evening, and I'm fine with that, because it talks about, the revolving fund 19044.
Okay, great. I was just trying to address
Yeah, no.
your initial concerns. So it's been moved and seconded to authorize the town administrator, the acting town administrator, to execute agreements for grant and loan assistance related to the Great Sand Lakes. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? It's unanimous. Okay, town administrator's report.
Hanging on to these for signatures, if you want to pass them down.
Oh, sure.
I
Too
didn't
late.
mean to hold on to
Too
them.
late.
Thank you.
You better buy dinner for us,
I
Megan.
was wondering where they were.
Sorry to interrupt.
You're on.
Oh,
Town administrator's report.
Commercial break.
So I mentioned this last week, that we're preparing to make an offer for the position of Assistant Deputy Harbor Master. We have done that. He has signed his offer letter, so we are pleased to announce the appointment of Andrew Souza. He's been with the town since 2016, local young man, went to Provincetown High School, lives locally a couple of towns over. Just super, super young man. He is just knocking it out of the park in the time that he's been there. He also worked in DPW for a number of years, and just a real go-getter. I had a chance to meet with him personally. As you know, there's a sort of 14-day revision period, so that actually lines up with the departure of the incumbent who's retiring, and we'll be celebrating him next week over there. So happy to have Andrew moving up, and it's great to have upward mobility for our employees within our organization versus perhaps seeking those opportunities elsewhere. So this is a great hire, and we've advertised for his prior position, which was dockhand.
Terrific. Anything else in the report?
No, I actually covered what I was gonna say it was really just more about the IMA board meeting we're going to.
Yeah.
So I covered that earlier.
Okay. Select board member reports. Pete?
I covered the Lothrop piece during my earlier rant.
You don't have to call it a rant.
My only other comment, and it's just me wordsmithing, but we continue to refer to Tony as the acting town administrator. And I believe his contract states the interim. Words matter to me, but for consistency, I think we should refer to Mr. Schiavi as the interim town administrator.
I hear you, but I believe that the charter refers to it as acting. I'll have to look back and see which is stated.
It is acting in the charter, but.
And perhaps an amended agreement, because it states
I
interim.
knew you were heading there. Well, point taken. Okay. Anita?
No, I don't have anything.
Mark?
Yeah, just real quick, I attended the last part of the Real Estate and Open Space Committee. They're doing a survey of all town properties that are under the aegis of the Select Board that could be better under the Water Department, Conservation Department. They have to get some survey work done. They were thinking of putting it into a CPC article, and I suggested to them that the Finance Committee has a reserve fund for unanticipated expenses, and to look at that so they don't have to wait a whole year. And that's it.
That's it? Jeff?
I have nothing.
I do understand that there's going to be a confab on Wednesday for the solar panels.
Oh, ribbon cutting.
Yes.
Yes. That is on Wednesday at 10 o'clock at the Park and Ride on Pleasant Lake Ave.
So are you planning on?
I am. I RSVP today.
Okay, great.
Mr. Chair, before you adjourn, on that topic, and thank you for bringing that forward, I know it's not our project, but perhaps we could reach out to the folks at Penrose and let them know about the ribbon cutting, and perhaps there could be an introduction, because they didn't seem to have a current relationship with the folks at Mass Transportation, or Mass Highway, so.
They will be if this gets built.
So.
A lot of customers across
Perhaps
the
we
street.
can make them aware.
Sure. Tony?
Yep, I will.
Motion to adjourn?
Second.
Moving seconded, all in favor? Aye. Any opposed? We are adjourned.